Good morning, members and members of the public and officers. We're going to have a 10-minute recess. The last committee overran, and just give everyone that chance to get prepared and sort it out. Thank you. So the meeting will begin at 11:10. Good morning, members, and welcome to the first meeting of the Wigtown Area Committee in 2025. I would let you know that at this point the Area Committee meeting will be live streamed on Teams and that the recording will be available online shortly after the finish of the meeting. This morning we have Louise Church, our MSYP for Galloway and Western Fries. And welcome to you, Louise. Is this your first meeting with us today?
Yes, it is.
I hope you enjoy it. Members, before I go on to the agenda, Councillor Hill, my Vice Chair, would like to come in with some sentiments, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to have it recognised by the Area Committee that the youth volunteers for the fire service are ending their 3-year stint of immense hard work on the 21st of this month. So with permission from the other elected members, I'd like to suggest that we welcome them in at a later date to be arranged for a celebrationary lunch with us, and so they can go through their experiences and congratulate them and the volunteers who've worked so hard to put this in place.
That's right, Councillor. I'm quite happy to agree that. Do other members agree? Yep. I've got yeses in the room. And online, I have nothing yet. And I have thumbs up online. Thank you, members. Moving on, members, to item number 1, we've got the Sedgwick apologies and Chair's approval of members' remote participation, which I approve of. Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. I can advise we have 7 members present this morning. And on Teams, we have Councillors Hagman, Marsh and McCalman. And as we already said, we also have Louise Church here from the Youth Council. Councillor Scobie is currently not present. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Members, on to item number 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations to make at this point in time? I see none. So moving on, members, on to the minutes of the previous meeting, the 6th of November 2025. Members, are we happy to approve these minutes? Or note these minutes? Councillor Marsh.
Sorry, that raised hand should have been a thumbs up. Apologies.
Thank you for that, Councillor Marsh. Members, on to item number 4, Police Scotland Wigtownshire Area Performance Report. Report 1st of April 2024, 30th September 2020. I'll start that bit again. 1st of April 2024 to the 30th of September 2024. Report by the Head of Thriving Communities. Our first performance report is the Police Scotland Area Performance Report, as I said, just April to September. Welcome to the Chief Inspector, Emma Dodds, and just to say it is great to see a reappearance of the police report to this area committee. Members always welcome to those reports as they help us address constituents' questions and concerns and support our partners from Police Scotland and our local communities. This report is caveated with the reminder that the percentages can be skewed by very small numbers involved in the data. The appendix is very clearly laid out, offering figures, some percentages and comparators with previous years. I know members also feel that it would possibly be helpful to get comparators with other areas of Dumfries and Galloway or with national averages, just to complete the picture. Some of the increases in recorded crimes may be related to increase in detection rates, such as the 49% increase in drug supply charges. However, a wee bit concerning to see a 91.8% increase in offences of driving under the influence. Good to see those speeding offences are dropping. I'm sure members will welcome the report and the amount of local detail and will have questions to help unpack some of the data contained in the appendix. Chief Inspector Emma Dodds, Police Scotland, is here to answer any questions. Emma, would you like to come up and take the seat over there, please? Emma, I'll give you the first go here to give us any updates or go over the report at all or anything that you'd like to add.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, councillors. And yes, it is nice to be back after what has been an extended period of time to present what is our figures for the period of April to September. My intention would be today was, because it's the first one that has been here for a while, was really to open it up to yourselves to ask any questions that you have so that I can give some clarity and then potentially give you some more information after that.
That's for that, Emma. We'll move on to questions from members. I've got Councillor Richard Marsh first.
Good morning, members, and thank you, Chair. And again, I'll reiterate Councillor Justy's sentiment there. It's really good to see the police report back, if I can get my words out, and also the Chief Inspector being with us today. It's two questions I have, and it relates to page 23 of the report in connection to the drugs-related deaths. I just wondered if you could give a slightly kind of fuller explanation and maybe some context around that figure of 21 drugs-related deaths for this region. How does that compare to kind of our like-sized local authorities similar to ourselves? And the second question is on page 26 in relation to, again, the detection rates. I can see that it states that the rape detection rate is 116.7%, so very impressive. I just wondered, when you look at the detection rate for the sexual assault, it is very much lower. And I just wondered if you could explain, is there a specific reason there why that detection rate does appear to be much lower than the first one? Thank you.
Emma?
Yeah, and thank you for your questions. In relation to the first ones on drug-related deaths, unfortunately, I don't have the comparative detail to be able to give you that today, but that is something that if you could leave that with me, then I can go and ensure that we consider this potentially for further meetings. And if there's something specific, Councillor, you would like us in regards to areas to look at, then if you could let me know that, then I will do that. So apologies, I can't give you a specific answer at this time. To move on to the ones in respect of the rape detection, as you said, it is at 117%. That includes, we have to remember in these scenarios, it's a 6-month period, so it may be that something has been reported previously but has been detected during that time, and that's why you get the 117%. You are right, Councillor, in saying about the 37.5, so just to try and give a little bit of context in relation to this one, there was 16 sexual assaults that was reported during that point. 6 of them were what we class as non-recent. By what I mean by that, it is adults that have felt the ability to come forward to make basically complaints about circumstances that's happened when they have been children. So out of those 16, it is actually 10 that are of a more recent one. In respect of the detection rate, sometimes that we can find, Councillor, is that with someone that are not so recent, it's more complex and how we then have to make that inquiry, because such things like forensic capabilities and trying to actually work through that inquiry can take longer to do. So on those occasions, what we can find is if we do get a period where there maybe is a higher amount of those ones, it can take us longer to actually work through that to get the evidence that we need to do it. So what you can find in these figures, it will fluctuate in response to how long it actually takes us to do those inquiries to get to an outcome. So I hope that's been able to give you some clarity on that one.
Thanks for that, Emma.
Through you,
Councillor Marsh?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. No, much appreciated. Thank you for that. And in relation to the first question, it was just to see, are we faring worse as a region for the drugs deaths compared to others, and would there be a reason for that? So I'd welcome, the follow-up information if that was possible at a future point. But thank you for that.
Thanks for that, Councillor Marsh. Councillor Katie Hagman?
Thanks, convener, and good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm not joining you in StreamYard this morning. Really similar questions to Councillor Marsh, although slightly different, so I will ask them. First of all, it's really great to get the report before us, and actually what I'm really pleased to see is actually it's got the role of scrutiny and what our role is here as elected members. So in paragraph 4.6, we've got the extract there, which I don't recall seeing before, but that is really helpful just to ensure that we're really clear of what our role is today on this one. I'm also really pleased to see the themes that Police Scotland are taking forward, and certainly in terms of those, sticking with the page 23, which is referencing reducing harm caused by substance misuse, and I see that that is the clear strategic outcome on page 19. I wonder, is there any role for the police in terms of prevention? Because I'm really clear the wording of this is reduce harm caused by substance misuse, and is there any responsibility or any proactive work in terms of prevention, is that a clear focus, or is it clearly just to reduce harm? And I know it's just a nuance of words, but those nuance of words do make a difference. And equally in the same vein, in terms of the protecting people most at risk of harm, is there any proactive work on there? You know, I'm concerned that the rates of sexual assault have gone up from 7 to 16. I appreciate that some of those are historic, and you know, it is in line with the 5-year average. But I'm also really concerned about national violence against women and girls, and the apparent increase of violence against women and girls, and what work can be done locally to protect women and girls going forward. Thanks.
Emma?
And thank you for your question, Councillor. If I could take the one in regards to substance misuse. So for the police, we do and are engaged in what we try as prevention through education. We have our own substance misuse officer that works closely with our partner agencies and ADP and with education. We are regularly in our schools doing a number of different talks, whether that be through the likes of Operation Safety, Do the Right Thing. If there's any particular issues, then we will absolutely go on what the information is telling us in the background. So that is a given, Councillor, that we will absolutely do the education part of it. To another extent, the trying to reduce from harm is also doing the drug supply. So it's making sure we have the proactivity with the community in respect of trying to ensure we're taking those from the street, because that is absolutely part of what we require to do. So yes, we do have a part in the reduction side of, and it is through the education to try and make people make the better choices. And we work with all our partners in ADP and, as I said, the substance misuse and NHS. Should there be any particular specific concerns that come up, we will work in partnership with them as well. But does that answer your question, Councillor?
It does on that part, I think. And you know, my son went through the Operation Safety at school and told me all about the police coming in. I'm just wondering if there's ways that the council can support that work in any activities, and I appreciate that you've got your own social media channels that you will put out information, but if there's ever a chance to link in with the council's communication teams where we can work together on this, especially, you know, in light of the really concerning news that is coming out that, you know, there appears to be a spike in drug deaths right now, and that is massively concerning. So if we can work together and support the police in terms of the really valuable work you're doing, I think, you know, we should be doing all we possibly can.
Emma?
No, and thank you, Councillor. Yes, for ourselves, we work closely with Public Health Scotland as well to ensure that messaging is put out, so that is absolutely something that can be looked at for the future. In relation to the work that we do proactively in relation to risk of harm, and I know you specifically mentioned domestic abuse in those cases, so violence against women and girls is something that is priority for Police Scotland in tackling those ones, and I think although you can see sometimes the increase in the reporting rate, I think that's also a good thing because it shows that the support is there. That is one of our main tactics to this as well, that they were given support to any victims of those that are related to that, whether that be through our own support systems. We work closely with our partners in Women's Aid. We obviously have the Assist programme, which was rolled out not so long ago, again to give that to support to anybody that's going through these instances. Again, from the more formal policing side, we have our regular meetings in respect of our concerns, so our tactical coordinating meetings where we're specifically speaking about people who may be the perpetrators of domestic abuse, but we're also in our risk and concern meetings that we have as well, those groups who are talking about ensuring the safety of those that may be the victims of it as well. So we absolutely come to this from as many angles as we can, and not to repeat potentially what I did before, Councillor, but again we try and speak to as many audiences as we can. We do it and Do the Right Thing, which I don't know if you know what's contained in that, but part of that is domestic abuse, where we work with Women's Aid, where we work with the Toon, which gives scenarios that makes the people it makes the third year pupils go and think about these ones. So that's a regular thing that we have every year, not just in our area, but throughout V Division or throughout Dumfries and Galloway. So we do try and hit it from a number of different angles. It is the education with the younger people. It is to try and encourage people to come forward and give them the support through any potential circumstances that's reported to us, and working with our partners to try and help them through these people through what can be sometimes a long court process as well.
Councillor Hackman?
Yeah, no, that's all really helpful, and certainly, you know, if I personally can help, you know, promote some of that work, please let me know. It's an issue that's very close to my heart. If I may, Chair, with your indulgence, can I just ask one very small question, and it's not to get a detailed response, but really just to know on record that I'm aware there's a piece of national work done in terms of local councillor safety. And, you know, I'm acutely aware, and I've spoken to colleagues across the country, some of which are receiving death threats as elected members, which is hugely concerning. And while it's not to go into the detail here, I'm just looking for some reassurance that locally on the ground that the police teams are aware of that, and actually there's support available.
Indulgence allowed or granted? Mema?
Yeah, Councillor, just in respect of that, yes, there's a number of different programmes that are in place to support and ensure the safety of our elected members, and there is a specific contact that works for us locally, who would be the point of contact. So I'd be more than happy to pass on their details if you don't already have them, to make that contact with you.
No, that's fine. I mean, I've got details and I can. It's just really to use this to just highlight that, you know, this is an issue. But if you're on it, that's brilliant. And just to get that confirmation. Thank you, Chair.
But thanks for that, Councillor. That's actually quite a worthwhile question. Coming into election time, it can be quite daunting going out on your own as an elected member or as a political agent. And yeah, I know I've had threats and been spat at and stuff like that on the streets, bro. Yeah, that is something that could be a bit daunting and intimidating for elected members. But Councillor McCammon.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and hi Emma, thanks for joining us today. My question is around antisocial behaviour. A couple of questions, if that's okay. So on page 17, the first page of the report, 4.2, the local priorities of the local policing plan. I would imagine that A to E, one of them is going to encapsulate the antisocial behaviour issues that we have across in the West. As you may know, that I've been involved in a few campaigns to tackle it, particularly in and around Newton Stewart and that's involving youth. So, and again, I'm sure that you've been aware more recently this week that there's been fires being set in parks, play parks around housing estates, etc. So I'm just wondering, what is the first, because we were at, just to put more context, sorry, we were at Community Council in Newton Stewart on Monday evening, and it was brought up, the antisocial behaviour whereby an elderly lady was being followed by youths, and, you know, it's just intimidation and that sort of behaviour. Now, it's not, you know, I'd like to think that it's not a common thing, but when it does happen, it's very scary, and they like, public, you know, quite rightly like to know they've got the reassurance of the police tackling these issues. And I just wondered if you could highlight, you know, in a way, just a brief way to members, how that's addressed and the best way to report it, because it was coming from the Community Council, for example, in this instance. Secondly, I'm led to believe that there is now a working group, an active working group between the local police and the social work department in the council, and I just wondered how that was evolving, and is it of any use, for example, in terms of antisocial behaviour? Thank you.
Emma.
And thank you for your question, Councillor. So I obviously won't go into any specifics in relation to Newton Stewart, but the Galloway area has a dedicated antisocial behaviour officer who concentrates on working with our partners, be that in housing, be that with our youth engagement, be that with other agencies, to try and do the diversionary as well as the actual direct work with potentially the youths that are involved. We have, for instance, coming up in the next wee while, we know that the schools are going to be out, we know that there's getting the lighter nights, so there is dedicated initiatives that will be done in numerous areas throughout Wigtownshire to be able to interact with anybody that may be out, because that's what it's about. It's about the interaction and trying to do the deterring and the diverting somewhere else. But we do speak with the Newton Stewart Initiative, for example. We do speak with the youth workers to try and come up with different parts to it so that we can work together to try and support the youths that are there. And should anybody be detected for a crime, they are reported accordingly, which then obviously takes us into the realms of working closely with our social work colleagues and what should be the best way in going forward for that one. So there is a multi-pronged approach, if that's the best way to put it. And I think I understand the question with regards to social work, because we always have that direct contact, but that has allowed us to have more direct communications on specific incidents and particularly or potentially specific people to try and see that we're looking at all areas to see if we can intervene if it is becoming a particular issue of certain individuals or groups or age groups. We also rely heavily on our youth engagement officers who work from our schools, who are regularly interacting and getting information and passing out the important messages with regards to antisocial behaviour and how it can affect those around them as well. In respect of reporting issues, you said there, Councillor, if it's something that's reported at the time, obviously we would tell you to contact 101 if that was a possibility. There's always the option to go into what is your local police station as well to tell them what has happened. It's always best to get it as early as we can rather than it being left for a number of days. So what I would say, if there's somebody that wants to report a particular issue in a particular area, if they can let us know, then that allows us to then put that into our action plans and our considerations about where the best place is to put our community officers to support.
Thanks for that, Emma. Councillor McCallum, would you like to come back on that?
Yeah, just quickly, Chair, if you don't mind. Thank you for that, Emma. It's really useful. And like I mentioned when I spoke before, I'm aware of the gap that was there between the police and social work in terms of antisocial behaviour and how it's addressed. So I know that the relationships have been built more firmer now, shall we say. And I just wondered, you know, if that was becoming more useful, but you've answered that question, so thank you very much. So just one last small thing, I suppose, is, you know, 4.2, where does antisocial behaviour sit within the local policing plan with the 5 priorities? Because I would have thought that would have been listed as one particular priority on its own, given the amount of work that goes into it from, you know, all the organisations you've just touched upon and many more. So would it not be worthwhile putting that into the local priorities, or is there a reason why it's not there? Thank you.
Emma.
Councillor, my understanding is that for the local policing plan, sometimes there's a more general term used, but antisocial behaviour in the description that we have just now absolutely is included with that. My understanding was that it was there in part of the bullet point section of it. It may not be headed antisocial behaviour, but my understanding was that is definitely included within the plan.
That's right, Emma. Councillor McCallum, does that cover the question?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for coming today, Emma. Yeah, I welcome the report as well, and it's been great hearing other councillors comment on things. It's really good to hear about the collaborative working around the sexual abuse and the harm to women and children. Not saying that men don't get abused as well, but it's enlightening to hear that people are feeling that they can come forward and there is a pathway for them. So, you know, that's really great work. And also the working groups with youth work and with social work on the antisocial behaviour, because there has been a slight decrease. People are more aware of where they can go to speak about things. But one thing I would like to see in a future report is the youth volunteers and what they've been out and about doing. I have a passion, as you know, the fire service will know about all the hard work they've done. So it would be really good for I think the area committee to have a part in the next report about how the youth volunteers in the police are getting on. I know we have it at the main committee down in Dumfries, but because it's local, you know, it's local people that are volunteering to put this on, and it's local children that are part of that. For me, it'd be really positive to hear about it at area committee, if that's okay. Thanks.
Emma?
Yeah, Councillor, and I can give you a little bit of information just for the local one, if that would be okay just now. So our PSYV in Stranraer just now has 16 youth volunteers, and there is about to be another small intake to take us up to our numbers. They have been busy this kind of past period. There's been 23 deployments. I don't have the exact breakdown of that, but that's something I can get for you. I think if you start looking at these things, and I can tell you it's 883 hours of voluntary working, and that should never be forgotten, the additional that they're given to us. They've also raised a lot of money with some events that they've been holding as well for local or for local charities, I should say. So there's a number of events that they will be coming involved in the forthcoming time. So we have got multi-agency events. We obviously have some events that's going to be held in Stranraer in July as well, and they will be coming in to help those ones. But what I'll do is I'll make sure that is included for future reports.
That's right, Emma. Councillor Hill?
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I'm sure all elected members will join me, and if there's anything that, you know, we can attend to support them, I know personally I'd be more than happy to attend, so I'm sure other elected members, if they got an invite, might want to pop along. But thank you for that, thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hill. Louise Church, MSYP.
Good morning. I just had a quick question on page 28 about the road safety and road crime. I noticed that there's been an increase in drivers under the influence over the past 5 years, and I was just wondering how you plan on tackling this, if it's going to be from a younger age or if it's from older adults.
Emma?
Thank you for your question. So in relation to driving under the influence, that includes both alcohol and drugs, and that has been an increase in proactivity on part of the police to discover the offences and to do kind of more proactive stops. But it's also based on the amount of information that we're getting from the community that allows us to make those stops that are the most appropriate. So we do it. The figures going up on that occasion shows that there's more people being stopped, but it also does suggest potentially there's more people in the background that are making the choice to drink or to use alcohol or drugs when they are driving. There has been a slight change in legislation as well. So previously it was all to do with alcohol consumption, and there's been a slight change in the way that we can now detect drug use or drug within a system for driving as well. So that is part of the point of the increase as well. We do try and put out as much messaging. We have initiatives at Christmas. We go round obviously from the schools as well to do the young driver schemes. We have the winter road safety initiative. So we do try and offer the education to ensure that people are making the appropriate choices, and we will continue to do that. But this is all about proactivity and ensuring that we are dedicating our resources based on either intelligence or what we're seeing to try and identify those that are committing such crimes.
That's right, Emma. Louisa, you want to come back on that?
No, I think that covers all the bases, and it's good to see that you're getting proactive when it comes to drinking drivers, because I know it can be end in a very bad situation.
That's right, Louise. Emma, so I've got a brief question, and that is regarding the way that this is presented to us, and it's the wording. So in reducing violence and disorder, I've got crimes of violence, serious assaults, robberies. And then when I go on to the next page, you have drug supply charges, possession charges. See these ones on the other page where it's crimes of violence. Is a crime a charge or is that a conviction?
Sorry, the crimes are the number that is reported. So the numbers that you're seeing, there's a number that have been reported for it. The detection rates for all of them aren't given in every graph. You can see there that the percentages would be, if it's been an increase, and that's where you would then give the additional information about how many of those have been detected. So the figures that you see are just the normal numbers, is the number of crimes.
That's right. Also, a second question is that one of the things that's on the radar right now, and it's a national issue that's been talked about, is illegal immigration. I know that might not be your department, but that would be under Border Force, which I believe have got a presence now in the Stranraer area. And with us having a major port, a major ferry port in our ward, is that something that are we able, through you, is that through you that we would ask for those reports? Well, not even reports, even just an update, maybe once a year with partners in Border Force. Is that appropriate to ask at this point in time?
Councillor, I'll be honest and say that's one I would need to look at for you. Obviously, the figures when we're talking about border force would have different regulations on what can and can't be shared. So if I could ask if you could leave that one with me, and I'll make the appropriate inquiry and I'll get back to you on that one.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you, Emma. Members, do we have any more questions? Councillor David Ingles.
Thanks, Chair. Emma, great report. It's more of an observation, actually, when you mentioned the reporting of, especially antisocial behaviour. It's not always easy to do that. 101, we get a lot of, or I get a lot of comments about the difficulty that constituents have getting through 101 and getting people they can talk to about the area that they know. And I think we've known that for a long time. The other is the police are not accessible in the towns. You know, you go to the police station and generally it's shut. Well, the guys are away out somewhere, which I think is a barrier to reporting, especially antisocial behaviour. Because if antisocial behaviour happens at night and somebody thinks, right, I'll nip down to the police station and try and deal with this fairly quickly, there's generally nobody there. You know, and 101 takes too long. It doesn't really work. So that, it's just an observation on that. The other, the engagement with the kids, the initiative have a darts night in Newton Stewart, and they have up to 40 kids go in there overnight. It may be useful for the officers just to pop their head round the door and become familiar to the kids that are there. It would be a good way, even if they just threw a few darts for 10 minutes, you know, just to get that introduction.
Emma.
No, Councillor, absolutely. That's something that is they will absolutely do. If I could get the details from yourself about when that is, then I'll make sure that the local community officers know and that they can then attend, because it is all about that breaking down barriers, as we call them, that potentially shouldn't be there, and it is just about that knowledge of each other and who they are. So yeah, if I could get those details for you, then I'll pass that on.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you have that engagement. I mean, there's a lot of work went on through the council's youth work team and Newton Stewart Initiative youth work team to try and bring people or kids who are out on the street and sitting in corners in parks and stuff into activities that really benefit them. Yeah, and maybe the police could be part of that.
Emma?
No, absolutely, Councillor. The integration and going back to what we class as community policing is something that we are working towards. So anything that we can get a large amount of kids that are in the place, then that's exactly where we should be going. And it is all about that interaction. So thank you for letting me know about that.
I should know, but I think it's a Wednesday night. Yeah, it is. It is a Wednesday night. I should know.
Thanks for that. Any other members' questions? I'm not seeing any hands up in the room, and I'm not seeing any hands up online. So members, we'll move to the recommendations. Members are asked to scrutinise the performance report for Wigtown Police Scotland for the period 1st of April 2024 to the 30th of September 2024, as detailed in the appendix. Are members happy to agree the recommendation, and we have scrutinised this report? I'm getting nods in the room, and I've got nothing online. So members, we'll move on. Thank you for your presence today, Emma. It was much appreciated. I'll give you a bit of time to move from your seat, and I will invite the Scottish Fire and Rescue Services to take place as well, and I'll introduce. So just give us 2 seconds online. Right, members, on to item 5. Scottish Fire and Rescue Services Wigtownshire Area Committee, Wigtownshire Area Performance Report, 1st of April 2024 to the 30th of September 2024. We now turn to Scottish Fire and Rescue Services Performance Report. As usual, this report contains a lot of good information at Wigtownshire level. I'm particularly encouraged to read about the 14% reduction of incidents across Wigtownshire and a 16% reduction in false alarms. No doubt due to some of the upstream educational work carried out by fire and rescue officers. It is reassuring also to hear that D&G continues to be amongst the best performing areas in Scotland. It is indeed, however, sad to hear about the increase in casualties through road traffic collisions. Thanks again for the detail in the report, and I'll pass members over to Tony Reid, Watch Commander, and Derek Milligan, Station Commander, and they are available today to answer members' questions. I'll invite the two officers today to present to us if they would like to add any more information, or if there's anything you'd like to add to your report. Tony and Derek.
Chair, no, I've nothing at the minute to add to it. Yeah.
Thanks for that. So members, moving on to questions. Do we have any questions for our fire officers today? Councillor Hill.
Hiya, thanks for coming along. It's not actually a question, it's just to point out on page 38, the multi-agency operational evening that we're invited to. I went along to that and I was actually in awe of all the services and how they worked collaboratively. It was absolutely great to see and speak to everybody that was there and see how these events, you know, fire as such can be dealt with through all agencies. Everybody moved quickly. It was just amazing to see. So if there are any more of those, it would be really great for other elected members to potentially go down and see the commitment and the hard work that goes in from all these outside agencies, and you know how coming together really does make a difference and potentially does save lives. So thanks for the invite to that. It was phenomenal. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor. Tony, Derek.
Thanks for your comments, Councillor Hill. Exercise Beckton 2, it was really good getting to work with all the kind of multi-agency partners to do what was a really realistic incident scenario. But we'll definitely take that on board in terms of inviting members along to any future exercises we do. They might not be to the similar size and scale of what that one was. Hopefully says me that had to plan it, but ones that we're doing locally with some of our stations, we will certainly invite members along.
Thanks for that, Derek. Councillor, you want back in?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, it was great to see, you know, the council were involved in that, and the ambulance, the fire, the police, you know, the lifeboats and the harbour people. It was just like, it was great to see, you know, because you don't work together all of the time. So it just goes to show that when a plan is put in place properly, it does succeed, it does work. So like I say, I was made up. I just thought, I was in awe of what was going on and how it works. So I felt that you needed, not just yourselves, but everybody who was involved, from the council officers to police and everybody else, it needs to be recognised, the hard work that you do. And that was just the training. You know, that's not actually when you're out there doing your job. So once again, thanks for that.
Thanks for that, Councillor. I've got Louise Church.
I just had a quick question and then I've got a comment I'd like to make. So I noticed in this that obviously there's been decreases in things, but I wanted to ask if you've noticed a decrease in antisocial behaviour, because personally from being in school I've noticed a decrease in antisocial behaviour, especially when it comes to fires, but have you noticed that?
Thanks for your question, Louise. I'm actually going to pass this one over to Tony because this is very much his area of expertise. Certainly from my point of view, it seems to be there's a reduction in antisocial behaviour, but I'll pass on to Tony to give you a better answer.
Thanks, Louise, for your question. Regarding antisocial behaviour, we do a lot of preventative work with the schools at regular times when it's suitable for the school to do the antisocial behaviour presentation, which basically is relating to fire, along with a joint partnership with other departments. We work with DG Youth working in Newton Stewart, doing a scheme where we brought the youth in to say, break down the barriers, get engagement, and it builds a relationship, and it also lets us know, or lets us tell them the effects they've got in using appliances with antisocial behaviour. It could be used at something else. So there's a big reduction, but there's a lot of work in the background regarding that. And there's several derelict buildings run about Stranraer, so there's a lot of work with various documents shared with partners, which illustrates the dangers in the school, and we have a good relationship with the community policing. We have a straight in the next day if there is any issues, so that's why, and there's a lot of work in the background. Even at the road safety events, we promoted antisocial behaviour to let everybody know that full year that if you do anything that's taking up the appliances, account for it, and it's not required, then obviously it can be used at something else. So yeah, it's been a lot of hard work.
Thanks for that.
If that answers it. Thank you.
Louise?
Thank you for that response. And quickly before we move on, I just wanted to say that I have been a part of the YVS scheme in Stranraer, and sorry, I get emotional when I talk about it. It has been the best 3 years that I've ever dedicated anything to. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Tony while he's here. I don't think anyone really understands how much really goes on in the background and how much effort goes into it. Getting our 100-hour solitaire award for just community events alone means a lot, and I just wanted to emphasise the amount of work and effort that goes on behind that.
Thanks for that, Louise. I think everyone in this room and this committee would like to share your sentiments and like to congratulate you and thank you for your voluntary service with the fire brigade. I think it helps you guys an awful lot, getting into the schools, getting these young people out and seeing and helping and getting them active in the community. And I think you guys probably would like to say something on that, would you? I don't know.
Yeah, as Louise says, what a difference in the 3 year for every one of the youths that's been there. I know it's in the reports quite in depth. For ourselves, it's a learning experience as well, and how we changed the scheme to suit the individuals, which has made a massive difference in how they act, how they present their skill, and how they work with these youth. They've been involved with the youth scheme from the beginning as well, and right through the 3 years supporting the whole event, along with some of the councillors, which is really good. And obviously, it's not just myself at the front of this, it's everybody else, you know. There's Gavin, there's Kyrene, there's John, who's been there for the last 2 years, nearly every week, to get these 100-hour plus. That was 100 hours in October. They've done a lot more above that, and that's the highest they can get. So just to make it highlighted that it's not just me that does it. There's the rest of the instructors who've been there for the last 3 years to make this happen and successful. So well done, Louise.
That's fantastic, thank you. Members, moving on. Councillor Hagman.
Thanks, Convener. I've withdrawn my question, but I'll just, if I've got the mic, I will just put my record on thanks as well to everyone who's been involved with this. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hagman. Councillor David Ingles.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, another report full of really useful information, good information. Page 33, 3.6 on road safety. I see you've highlighted A75. It would be useful if we knew what other roads were involved in these accidents, just to give us an idea whether there's one in particular that's a real issue, that's not the main thoroughfare through Dumfries and Galloway. So that would be useful. The volunteer scheme is just amazing. Yeah. I'm just wondering if it seems to focus in Stranraer. Is it happening in Newton Stewart, or will it happen, or is it growing that over that end?
Don't I?
Yeah, Councillor. The scheme was originally brought in 3 years ago for the Dumfries and Galloway area and was going to be moving about. The idea was that it would do its 3 year here, and you can see the vast improvement it's had on the youths. It's now going to Sanka, I can tell you that. That's where it's going. So we'll be there for 3 years, and then it might move again to a different area, so it might come back to Newton Stewart at some point, which I would like to see it happening everywhere, but it's not viable. Financially, we volunteers need to give up their time to run it. It's a big ask, but I think it's a very worthwhile scheme. Personally, we've been involved in it, and it makes an immense difference to the youngsters. I would like to see it everywhere, but at the minute, that's where it's going next. So that's all the information I have on that, to be fair.
That's what David Ingles.
I suppose really it gives them an insight into what it's like to be a fireman and be involved in the fire brigade, and from that recruitment point of view in the future, it's going to be beneficial. It's a shame it can't be everywhere. On page 36 at 3.
Sorry, can I just come back on that? Obviously, it's not just about the fire service, it's giving them life skills, and we have one person waiting to come in when she turns 18. She's looking to apply, so it's no set that they automatically come into the fire service, but we've given them skills to go. We've got other youths who left and got part-time jobs. Someone's moved into nursing, one's doing an emergency service college course who's hoping to move into the fire service. So it's gave them all the life skills out there, and it's not just about joining the fire service, you know.
That's not true.
Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah, page 36, 3.10. It mentions resilience, more from the services point of view, but I'm just wondering, given the situation with the storms recently and the sort of focus that it's put on local resilience teams, how closely services like yourself will liaise with the local resilience teams in the towns. For example, Newton Stewart's got a resilience team. Would the fire brigade in Newton Stewart work in partnership with that resilience team to ensure that they're able to deliver something that's of benefit to the fire service?
Donate, Eric.
Excuse me, thanks for your question there, Councillor. We do stand up the local resilience teams, particularly during Storm Ewan there. It was set up, and there was a lot of information getting shared between the different multi-agencies, and that was getting fed back throughout the local areas. Could I say that it will be specifically set up in Newton Stewart? I don't know. It would depend on what the circumstances are, but if that's an opportunity that could be presented, then absolutely we would have some way of being within that local resilience partnership group and being able to feed back all the relevant information to whoever needs to know.
I've always found that there's a gap between resilience teams in the community and the official services. And trying to narrow that gap and increase the sort of awareness of each other and what they can do, if there is an emergency, to me is really important. So anything that can be done along those lines. I know that resilience teams generally are linked to community councils. If the Federation of Community Councils was up and running, it could be done through that body, but I think it's something that needs to be explored.
That's right, Councillor Engels. Tony? Or Derek, sorry.
Yep, I totally agree with you, and I'll take those points on board, and I'll see what I can do moving forward in the future. Thanks.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. Councillor Hill.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just hearing what Councillor Ingalls said there about the resilience, during the storm I did have quite a lot of comings and goings with Martin and Harry Hay from the council, and they said that they were more than happy to support community councils with resilience and get the expertise from yourself. And after seeing the day that I did with the collaborative working, I'm sure that's not going to be difficult for that to come to fruition and be put in place. What I did want to say, Councillor McCammon touched on it slightly with the police about the fires that have been set recently, the antisocial behaviour in Newton Stewart. The reason I know about them, it's not my ward, it's directly outside my house. And members of the public have been challenging the young people that have been setting these fires, which isn't actually great, but there was a fire engine had to come out. We all know that it's a huge cost for that. So potentially at the moment, if something could be done in and around Newton Stewart in the school, you might have something in the pipeline, but if something could be done as an urgency, because it's been a couple of nights on the row, in connection with youth work and potentially the police, that would be really, really helpful. Just to go in and sort of like reiterate, it's not just the buildings, it's in small parks, which is causing quite a lot of damage, and also it's a risk to life. So just be, Councillor McCammon had brought it up with the police, so it's just to resonate it with you because it is fires. But yeah, the work that you do is phenomenal. So thanks, and thanks for the report, because it's always full of lots and lots of information, which is great for us to read. Thank you.
Derek, Tony?
Yeah, but, on the back of this one, obviously, that's falls under my remit with this. So a community intelligence report was put together straight after it. We were down there the same day taking photographs, making sure the place was secured back up. So I can assure you that it has been secured back up because we've got the photograph evidence, and we contact we worked with the police, and they were in contact with the owner to make sure it was secure. We do put the messages back around the school, and obviously we spoke to the community police officer who we've arranged to go back and talk to the kids again in the school regarding that. So it has been highlighted, and also we did an ops briefing note for the crews for safety, because obviously that building that's in is structurally not very great. So there's a document put together. There's 2 documents off the back of that one fire for that building. So it's on the radar for us, and it's on the radar for the police. So we have done as much as we can at the minute with that, and obviously there is stuff in line for the school talks. Hopefully that answers your question.
That's that, Troy. Councillor Hill.
Yeah, and will that sort of like procedure happen with the park that's recently been set on fire as well? I mean, we can take that one offline if you need more information about it. But it's a play equipment at the park, that's actually, it's like a round thing that you sit a toddler in and swing them round with, and they're using it as like a fire pit. So just to highlight that, so that you're aware. Thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, definitely. Anything that goes fire related comes through myself, and we will do something about it. Obviously, something in the building's got more specific risk, which is more concerning, and that's why we've done the community intelligence. We shared that with the police and various partners, so they're aware of what's going on in that building, and there is a piece of work going on regarding setting fires. It continues. Thank you.
That's right, Tony. Derek. Members, do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands in the room, and I'm not seeing any hands online, so members will move to the recommendations, where members are asked to scrutinise the performance report for the Police in Galloway from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for the period of the 1st of April 2024 to the 30th of September 2024, as detailed in the appendices. Are we happy to agree the recommendations that we've scrutinised? I'm getting nods in the room, and I've got nothing online. I've got thumbs up online now. So thank you very much for joining us today, Derek and Tony. You've been great, and it's a great report as always. The fire service is always pretty consistent with your reporting, and I'll give you a wee minute just to go over there and for Mark Malloy and Laura Kelty to join us. Members online, we'll just take a couple of seconds for the changeover in officers. Thanks for that, members. Moving on to item number 6, 2024-2025 assessment, the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of December 2024 of Thriving Community Service Plan 2024 to 2025. There's a lot of dates in this. Report by Head of Thriving Communities. We now turn to the Thriving Community Service Plan. Members will again be pleased to see the amount of detail disaggregated to the Wigtown area level contained in this report. I'm pleased to see the mention of some of the major events in Wigtownshire and their funding, as these mean a lot to our local communities and local businesses. It's also good to see emerging detail about some of the local police plans, along with the Borderlands plans beginning to be endorsed by the Council. I'm aware that our communities have put a great deal of effort into these plans, and there are around 50 of these in progress around the region, along with those detailed in Wigtownshire. It's good to see young people continue to achieve accreditation for their achievements beyond the school gates and detail of the achievements of our lifelong learners. Good also is to see the figures detailed for physical activity remaining high and in some cases increasing. Good to see also some of the efforts to mitigate the effects of poverty through the winter warm close events in Newton Stewart and the Ryan Centre. Mark Malloy is available to answer members' questions and comments today. Do we have any? I'll open it for Mark Malloy to add to the report first, actually. Mark, do you have anything to add?
No, Chair. Happy to go straight to questions.
Thanks for that, Mark. Members who have any questions? Councillor Hagman?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, there's a huge amount in this report, so thank you. And we've just got sort of a snippet on each of the topics. I've got a number of questions, so I don't know if you want me to take them one at a time or just fire through them, and whichever officers are available can maybe respond.
How many questions, Councillor Hagman?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Tell you what, we'll do 2 questions, a 2, and then a 1. Keep your hardest one for last.
Some of them sort of tie into each other, so I'll make a start and see how we get on, if that's fair enough. So my first point is in reference to the local police plans that are referenced at 5.2.2, and that references that there's the 2 police plans going forward, Port William and the Isle of Whithorn. Port William has subsequently been endorsed, so I appreciate this is a historic report, but it ties into the work of the police plan, which ties into my point on ward events. I'm acutely aware that Port William has requested award event which came out of their place planning work, and it's not progressed. Now, I have tried to ascertain where we are with that, and I wonder if officials are able to help where, just in terms of, we've got the historical point here, but my understanding is the ward event was requested during this time period. We have got a timescale that we're meant to be adhering to, but that timescale hasn't been met. So I guess my question is there any update on that specific ward event for Port William? So I guess that would be my first question, which covers two topics.
Thank you, Councillor Hadman. Mark?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Hagman. In terms of any ward events, officers responsible for those would deliver those in line with council policy, and if there's an outstanding event for that community, I can take that back and check with the relevant officers on what the status of that is and share it with the wider community following the wider committee following the meeting.
That would be really helpful, Mark. I think, just for transparency, I've already raised this with the Chief Executive. So, and I'm still not getting any response. So I'm now at public committee, calling for a response on that one, which is really disappointing that, I've not been able to get progress. And it's not disappointing necessarily for me personally, but for those in the community that have been trying to get this brought forward, because the individuals who are volunteers trying to bring this forward are then being left to answer to the community when it's not necessarily on them. But Mark, if you're able to get information to share with all ward members, that would be really helpful. My second point, Chair, is just in terms of community council elections, and just obviously to put my thanks on record for all the volunteers that have come forward for that. I note that there are induction sessions, and I just wonder if it's possible to extend the invitation to elected members for those, just so that we're fully aware of what the expectations the community councillors are taking forward. Obviously, we're ex officio members of the community council, and it would just be helpful. And even if there's handouts, whether that could be shared with elected members, so we're all working with the same information, and I think that would be really, really helpful. And then my sort of final point, I'll say that, and then I think that's me, is in reference to the number of attendances at swimming pools in Wigtownshire. It's a specific point, and I believe it was for this period as well. Through our engagement with our youth councillors, we were advised, or we were updated, that there were specific sessions being made available for young people to have free sessions at the swimming pools. However, the uptake was very, very low. But then it was also noted that there was no advertising of those free sessions. So I just wonder if there's any comments from officials in terms of the option to try and encourage young people into the leisure facilities. Thanks.
That's right, Councillor Hagman. Mark?
Thanks, Councillor Hagman and Chair. In terms of the community council elections, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to share that information that's been used at the inductions with all members across the council, and I can take that forward with the relevant officers to make sure that that's shared once those induction sessions have taken place. And also in terms of the swimming numbers at the Ryan Centre, I think it is a positive position about the increase in attendance since the work was done at the Ryan Centre in improving the facilities. And I do know that the taster card session that was the action from the joint full council youth council session, which was agreed just over a year ago, was fully implemented by colleagues in leisure and sport. And again, I will take back to the youth council leadership group and also to relevant officers in leisure and sport around how they could maybe work together more around promoting swimming and opportunities within the wider Wigtownshire area to young people.
That's that, Mark. Councillor Hagman.
Yeah, I'm sorry if my hand's still up. Yeah, no, that's helpful. That's helpful, Mark. I think it was really useful, and this is why we have engagement directly with our youth councillors at a ward level. The feedback from our ward councillors was that certainly in Newton Stewart, the uptake wasn't great. But as I said, the report that we got back was that it hadn't actually been advertised. And certainly, myself, Councillor Ingalls and Councillor Marsh were all there, and none of us were even aware that the initiative had been rolled out. So if we weren't aware of it, and other parents perhaps weren't aware of it, how were young people made aware of that? But that's maybe a reflection to go back to Youth Council. Thanks.
That's right, Councillor Hammond. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. Page 66, 4.5.6.2, it tells us about the awards that Stranraer Academy held and the Douglas Stewart held for all the young people to get lots of certificates. I attended both, I was invited to both, and I gave out awards, and I shook that many hands of young people and saw that many smiley faces at their achievements. It was phenomenal. And I just think it needs recognising that the youth workers do a tremendous job, and they don't just do their hours that they're paid for through the council. I think we're all very aware of that, and these extra events that they put on help build community relationships. There was lots of parents and carers invited as well, and I was actually blown. I've been to these events before, but these 2 hours blown away at how many different certificates some of these young people were walking away with. It wasn't just 1 or 2. Some of them had a handful of certificates by the end of the evening, and these are huge achievements for people, particularly children that are not necessarily academic. And I think that all of these achievements that young people are achieving outside of school, whether it be with youth work through the council or any extra curriculum activities, I think they need to be recognised and recorded so that when children do leave school, they have this record of achievement to take forward, because that's what lifelong learning is about. And that's what GERFEC's all about. You know, it's about getting these young people integrated into society and having them parts of the community, and youth work really champion that. So I'd like to put on record a huge thank you to all the hard work that the youth workers do, the youth volunteers, because it's absolutely phenomenal. And when you read this report, you know, the next page, page 67, 4.5.8, it talks about the mental health service that the youth work put into schools, and how many hours that they've sat with young people and they've spoken to them and they've helped them, because we know that in the NHS the services like CAMS are really, really struggling to fill that gap, and that's what our youth work service are doing in Dumfries and Galloway. So we are extremely lucky that we have these talented people that can do all of these, you know, different jobs. They're doing the role of a social worker in effect. They're doing a support role to a teacher. They're doing a support role to the NHS, and we need to champion them. So I'd just like to thank you, Mark, and your team, because you excel in everything you do. So thank you very much.
Mark, any comments?
Yeah, just to say, Councillor Hill, I'll take those comments back and pass them to the wider team. I think it was particularly well received by our part-time staff who are work out in the cold, dark nights, working alongside our volunteers as well. And I think you're right around the range of awards presented at both Stranraer and Douglas Stewart events last month, I think relate directly to the key performance indicator that's part of this report in terms of the accredited awards that young people get. And I think having that breadth of them is important to really suit the individual needs of the young people. And I think it was real credit to the partnership approach, both in Stranraer with the local community groups and within Mid Galloway in terms of the breadth of work happening across the Wigtownshire area.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hill and Mark. Louise.
This, as I say, this report is really, really detailed. It's fabulous to see. I had a quick question on 4.5.8, which Councillor Hill just talked about the mental health support. It has delivered so many sessions, and I was just wondering if this is going to continue next academic year, as it has helped so many young people. I've heard very positive things about the sessions, so I was wondering if that's going to be continuing in the future.
Mark.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Louise. In terms of the Youth Information in Schools project that provides the low-level mental health that runs across all 16 secondary schools in the region as part of the Scottish Government's commitment to providing counselling within schools. So within Dumfries and Galloway, we took a unique approach based on the evidence of a pilot project that ran a number of years ago, where we didn't look to necessarily contract private counsellors who would parachute into a school and on leave, what we did was took our youth workers that were already working in these communities and in schools and put them through their counselling qualification. So I think that's what's quite unique. And when you actually compare the outcomes of their counselling in schools project compared to other 32 local authorities, the outcomes are so significantly ahead of other 31 councils, and to the point where we've now literally on a weekly basis got other councils coming to look at what we are doing because the outcomes are so much more significant. That I can confirm it will continue next academic term because the Scottish Government confirmed the funding for this for the duration of the current Scottish Parliament term, so it is fully funded and committed for the region until the next election for the Scottish Parliament.
Thanks for that, Mark. Does that answer the question, Louise? Good, good. Councillor Ben Dashman.
Thanks, Chair. Page 65, I'm looking at the community asset transfers bit. I appreciate this isn't a dedicated CAT report, but some of these have been going on for a while, particularly Dix Hill. I think that's been an issue since before I even got elected. Could we just get a wee little verbal update on the progress of that in specific? Thank you.
Mark, I think you're getting a reprieve here. I think Jamie Ferguson is going to take this question.
Yeah, I can come in with that one, Councillor Dashper. It has taken a while, and I know there are concerns about the building because buildings deteriorate fairly quickly when left unoccupied. I can update that officers did meet with the community radio station yesterday, who's taking the lead on this, and there is a business plan that has been produced for the building. That business plan will go through a kind of iterative process, as they all do with officers, just in terms of, I suppose, that critical friend role, just trying to help shape the business plan, shape the thinking around it. But there is a business plan there. It is progressing, and the hope is that by it's a matter of not so much a matter of whether it will happen, it's just a matter of refining it. And the hope is to get it to, there was a bit of discussion about when we get it to final committee, but I think September's the kind of target date for that one. I know there are various community groups. It was a kind of conglomerate group effort, and I think internally the groups had a bit of discussion about how they would work together on it. So it has taken a bit of time, but I think I can assure you it's getting there.
Councillor Ashborough, would you like to come back on that? Or?
No, but I've got another question, if you permit me, Chair, about something else. I'm also looking at the Community Council elections bit. I guess my question is in regards to the discretionary grant, and what training are we putting in place to make community councils aware that this is something available to them? I raised this at a community council, and then they looked at me, they went, "What? We've never heard of this." So what is that part of the training progress for new community councils, that they're made aware of what financial support they can get? Thank you.
Mark?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Dashper. In terms of the training programme induction for community councils, it would cover all aspects of their roles, their responsibilities, and also what opportunities are available to them. If you feel that there's maybe some community councils that don't feel they've got the relevant information in terms of the funding, happy to take that offline from committee and then ask the relevant officers to follow up direct with that community council following the meeting.
No, thanks, Mark. I'll raise it offline so we can make sure that they've got access to that. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Councillor David Ingles.
Thanks, Chair. It's similar to Ben's point on page 65, 4.5.3.3. Someone asked me recently what the situation is with this asset transfer for the pavilion in Minigaff. Has that been finalised, or is it still going through the process?
Jamie?
I'll check back absolutely on that, whether it's still sitting with legal. Certainly been agreed by committee, as we know, but I'll check back just to make absolutely sure whether that one's still sitting with legal colleagues.
Councillor Ingles.
Yeah, just given it was June last year that it was agreed at committee, it'd be interesting to get a bit of background into how long it takes to finalise these, to see, you know, they do seem to drag out quite a bit, and I understand it could be legal, but it would really be interesting to know just exactly how long that process takes before it's finalised.
Thanks a lot, Councillor Inglis. Councillor Hagman.
Thank you, convener. I missed out one of my questions, and Councillor Dashborough there has reminded me of that in terms of the community asset transfers as well. 4.5.3.2 references Ward 2 assets, so to speak. And the first one on there is Wigtown Bowling Club. Now, my understanding is that that is a common good asset, and I'm just wondering at what point does the common good get made aware of this? I'm conscious we haven't had a common good meeting because there was no business deemed appropriate to come forward at this point, but can we just be mindful that we can separate out what is council assets and what is common good assets, because they are distinctly different? And also, can I just get a clarification? I'm trying to work out if there's commas missing or not, but the sort of final one on that paragraph is Newton Stewart and Whithorn Visitors Centre. And I'm not sure what the Newton Stewart and Whithorn's Visitor Centre is. Or so can I just get clarity? What property is that? Because they're quite distinct communities.
Thanks a lot, Councillor Hagman. Jamie?
Yeah, there's different different approaches in terms of, I'm sure you know, Councillor Hagman, in terms of the kind of legislation, the Scottish Government guidance to local authorities for how common good assets and council assets are treated, even in terms of representation periods, which are different for the public to have their say. As far as I know, the Wigtown Bowling Club is still sitting at an expression of interest. We've got a two-stage application process for these things. Expression of interest is simply what it says on the tin, really. It is an expression of interest. And, you know, important to know that expression of interest really carries no prohibitions, I suppose is the word for it, in that if there is an expression of interest, the council can still agree to do, or the common good can still agree to do what it likes with the property. It still sits with the council to, you know, to make that decision. Sometimes expressions of interest can take quite a while for communities, depending on their capacity and depending on, you know, what speed they can actually move at. Community asset transfer is not a simple process for community groups. It can be quite a challenging process for them, in that there's various stages to it. And the first one being community consultation and community engagement, which for some communities can require quite a lot of support for some community groups to get that right. The second part is what additionality they're going to actually bring to the local community through their project and through their acquisition of a property or a piece of land. And the third one they have to think about is the financial sustainability of whatever they're taking on. So they have to do their due diligence. So it can take a considerable amount of time, and I think we shouldn't really make apologies for that, because they are taking on buildings that are public buildings, and we're really looking for a well-developed and coherent business plan that spells out clearly not what it's going to do for the organisation. We try and get across to community groups that we're not actually transferring buildings to them. They're just the proxy for the local community, and it has to have the local community's backing. So that's perhaps, I think, important to understand. You know, for the Wigtown Bowling Club, it's still sitting at an expression of interest. And just to give the fullest information, we do try to give members, I think we give all members these days, the information about what is an expression of interest, what's a stage 2 and how things are moving. But it's just to clarify that expressions of interest are just that.
Thanks for that, Jamie. Councillor Hagman.
No, absolutely, and I guess thanks, Jamie. I know that you and your team do significant amounts of work supporting communities on this, and I think, you know, I think it's great that if communities are wanting to take forward these assets, that they're empowered to do so. So I absolutely welcome that. I appreciate the comments about Wigtown Bowling Club. Are you able to clarify what the Newton Stewart and Whithorn Visitor Centre is?
Yeah, I think it's a punctuation issue here. I think it's the old hall, the old town hall clock tower, Newton Stewart.
Right, there we are. Yes, I appreciate that.
And the Whithorn Visitor Centre. There's maybe a comma or something missing in there, Councillor Hagman, I'm not sure.
No, that's really helpful. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very well spotted, Councillor Hagman. Very well spotted. Members, any more questions? No, I've not got any hands going up in the room. Oh, Councillor Marsh.
Sorry, Chair, I was late to the party there. Yeah, a wholly positive report. We're clearly being much healthier and much fitter, getting lots more exercise. And I would echo Councillor Hill's sentiments about the youth work initiatives. What they do is just absolutely invaluable. But I had 3 random questions. I thought, well, why not? I'm just going to ask them. On page 68, at 4.5.14, in relation to the Stranraer Museum renovation, I just wondered, is it possible to get any kind of numbers now? Obviously, it's had a substantial refit at the cost of over £700,000 for the project. Do we know what the footfall's like? Has it been good? Has it increased because of that? Second question, page 73, at the very bottom under success measures, it doesn't give us a rating, but the question was percentage of community councils satisfied with the support provided by the Community Planning and Engagement Service. I'd be intrigued to know what that was. And the question really is, when will we see that? And yeah, I'd just be intrigued to know what that percentage was. And finally, on page 75, right in the middle of the table, the percentage of income target met generated from community safety anti-social behaviour detection patrols. Precisely what is that? I've never come across that before. So some further explanation on that would be very welcome. Thank you.
Mark or Jamie?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Marsh. In terms of the first question around Stranraer Museum, my understanding is that the data for that is reported as full year and will come to this committee as part of the next performance report because of the time period that this report's in. So that information will come in your next performance report. And in terms of the second question around community planning engagement and the satisfaction surveys, my understanding from the officer is that they are also annual satisfaction surveys. So this is a 6-month performance report, which is why some of the data isn't within it and not applicable, but it will be within it when you receive the full performance report for the year. And in terms of the final question, in terms of the community safety income and what they are, I've been advised that in terms of that income target, it's actually a slight error within the performance report because it is not an income target for an area-based approach within Wigtownshire. It's actually a regional target, which is 3,000 and has been exceeded by at 3,810, which essentially is around fixed penalty notices issued. But that was an error, and that will be picked up so that it's resolved for future committee reports.
Thanks for that, Mark. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. No, that's grand. Thank you.
Members, I've got no more hands in the room and no more hands online. So I'm taking that as everyone taking their piece. So members, will move on to the recommendations. Members are asked to, 1, review the 2024 to 2025 summary performance for the Wigtown area for the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of December 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.13. And 3. Consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree with these recommendations? I've got agreements in the room and I've got thumbs up online. Members, there's a couple of us that have been on since 10 a.m. this morning, so I'm going to suggest a quick 5-minute comfort break, and we will reconvene at 20 to 1. Are we live streaming? Yep, excellent. We're live streaming. Welcome back, members. And we'll go straight into the business, which is item number 7, which is 2024-2025 assessment, 1st of April 2024 to 30th of December 2024 of Facilities, Waste and Neighbourhood Services Service Plan. The report by the Interim Head of Facilities, Waste and Neighbourhood Services, which is... Who's reporting for us today? Oh, we're online. We've got Nicola Simpson today. We have the Facilities, Waste and Neighbourhood Service Performance Report covering the period from April to December 2024. Members will be pleased to see that all project targets are either on track or completed. It's good to see that our communities are being consulted regarding their views on litter reduction and that the plans for this are now getting underway. It's good to also get a brief update on the work jointly between the Council and our local communities to realise the Wigtown Inclusive Play Park. We'll await also the report to this committee on the action plan to support the delivery of the waste, recycling and reuse strategy and how it will be developed and implemented for the area. Nicola Simpson and Jennifer Scott are available to answer members' questions. Nicola, Jennifer, do you have anything to add to the report before I go to members' questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. I have a couple of small updates for members today. First of all, relating the implementation of the waste recycling and reuse strategy for the battery collection service for domestic and commercial customers. And it's just to let members know that since September, 2.9 tonnes of batteries have been collected under this scheme. And there's also been a 40% reduction in activations at the EcoDeco site as a result of that, because obviously, you'll be aware that batteries can overheat and cause problems within the site. So just a small update there. And also in regards to the implementation of the garden waste collection service, just to let you know that 4,000 properties have signed up to this scheme, 236 in Stranraer and Rins and 355 in Mid-Galloway and Wigtown. So just a little bit of local insight into that there. The Stranraer and Rins uptake has been lower than other areas, but we suspect that's because of the super facilities that are available at the Zero Waste Park in Stranraer, which the public have ready access to, so they possibly feel that they're able to take their own material there quite easily themselves without having a separate curbside collection. Other than that, my colleague Jennifer is on the call as well to answer any specific questions relating to preschool meals, and I will do my best to answer any other questions that members have on the paper. Thank you.
Jennifer, are you adding anything before I move on?
Thank you, Chair. At this moment, no, I've nothing else to add. Thanks.
Not a problem, thank you. So, members, I've got questions from Councillor Richard Marsh to begin with.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to make comment on the battery collection. Wow, 2.9 tonnes since September. That seems to me like to be a huge uptake. So that's been really successful. So well done for that. But the question relates to page 91, 4.5.2. I do know that the report we're looking at is historic from April to December 24, but I just wonder, as we're now into March 25, do we know who we are with the flood scheme hearing? How much more work needs to be done in preparation? And are we any closer to getting a date for that? Thank you.
Nicola?
Sorry, what was that? Was in relation to?
I think we're on the wrong item, Richard. Your mic's off, Richard. We're on item 7.
My apologies. I'll be quiet.
Thank goodness for that, because I was struggling there.
That was the ultimate curveball. Moving on, Councillor Hagman.
Thanks, convener. I think, yeah, the 2.9 tonnes of battery, that's incredible. Can you just confirm what the 40% reduction at the EcoDeco was? I didn't quite catch what we've reduced by 40%.
Yes, they talk about activations at the site, and that's where there's areas of extreme heat are being generated or potentially small fires, and these can quite often be caused by batteries reacting when they're in the site. So there's been a 40% reduction in these type of incidents since the batteries have been removed from the material.
That's really helpful. Thank you. My sort of question, if I can ask, is in reference to the litter review, reduction and action plan. I'm really conscious, and certainly it featured part of the budget, the budget motion that all parties were supporting, and that was essentially lobbying Scottish Government about our role as litter authority along trunk roads. And I just wonder if this is going to be included as part of information. I'm really conscious, and it happens every time at this year before the grass starts growing. Everybody is so acutely aware of the litter at the side of the main trunk road on the A75. I know that there's some residents in the Glen Luce area that just, in spite of potential safety concerns, are actively wanting to go and walk the A75 to litter pick directly as volunteers. And certainly in my own community here in Wigtown, there's a lot of concern about litter in some of the lay-bys and along the main 75 as well. I'm also acutely aware there's health and safety issues because often there is human waste that's being dumped on that. I just wonder, in terms of the work going forward, it's got here that the questionnaire and presentation document for online community conversations is to be completed this month, March 25. And will that be shared with elected members? I see that there's a seminar being put in place, but there's also online community conversations. Is that information, when's that information going to be shared out with our community? And in terms of the consultation phase, is that going to be rolled out to all our community councils as well? Because often litter picking and litter is a key area for concern within community councils. Thanks.
Yeah, yes, when we come to do that, we can, if members would like us, we can let you see the consultation documents in advance of sharing them with our communities. That wouldn't be a problem at all. We will be holding a members seminar, but we normally do the members seminar at the end so that we can give members feedback on what information we've gained throughout the process. But I would have no problem at all in sharing that with members. We will be going to all community councils to share the information with them and to highlight when the community conversations will take place. And previous ones that we've done, we have had a good representation from community councils, so we would want to encourage that. We do appreciate that it is a problem in all of our areas in regards to litter. As regarding the A75 in particular, we have had some different recent years in litter picking that, and we most certainly would not encourage our community partners on litter picking to litter pick on such a busy road as that. It really is not safe, and we do tell them that. Unfortunately, some are so determined that they don't really want to listen to us, but that is the advice that we give. We want to start and try and get some more litter picking done ourselves. Our staff have to get some additional training in regards to that. And we also have to, in some instances, put in traffic management as well, because of where the verges are particularly narrow and there's not enough space for our operatives to work safely beside the carriageway. As regards the lobbying, I think we would welcome that. It is a bit of a strange one that the trunk road contractors have been given the duty of cutting the grass, but we have been left with the duty of uplifting the litter. And it would be more sensible all round if litter picking was done just immediately prior to a grass cut to prevent the further spread of litter. So I think as a council we will be really welcoming further discussion with Transport Scotland on that aspect, and we'll obviously keep members abreast of that as we go forward with any discussions.
That's right, Nicola. Councillor Hagman.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's really helpful. And certainly I was doing a litter pick myself down Newton Stewart and managed to fill, two full bags, literally just going down the outside of Sainsbury's car park in Newton Stewart. So it's quite staggering, the amount of litter. But the amount of people that stopped and were really appreciative of me taking the time out to personally go out and litter pick. And I think, where we can do, we need to support our community. Can I just check, because as I say, I know that we've got online community conversations. But are there going to be any in-person community conversations, and are the questionnaires going to be available in our customer service centres so people can get a physical questionnaire to actually fill it out? And my last point is, if a community is wanting to do a community litter pick, is there a one-stop contact that a community organisation should contact to ensure that they've got any potential equipment, or who they contact in terms of lifting up the green bags at the end so that any litter that has been gathered can be safely disposed of? Because I appreciate that it cannot go into the household waste because it's considered contaminated. Thanks.
As regards the online community conversations, on this occasion we were going to hold these solely online, and the reason for that is because in the past we have went out and done in-person community conversations on a host of subjects, and as we've continued, attendance has declined to quite a poor extent. You know, we've had occasions where there's been one member of the public has come along, and unfortunately some where there is none. And it obviously takes a lot of time, a lot of travel and expense, you know, for booking the accommodations to hold these events. We got a far better attendance online last year through the burial service than we did in person. And so we're going to do that this time as well. We will get some hard copy questionnaires in customer service centres, yes, for people to get access to. I've kind of lost the thread of the last part of your question there, Councillor Hadman, sorry. What was the last thing?
If a community group is trying to organise a community litter pick, is there a contact within the council that they should speak to?
We have got basically our community assets teams at the local depots. So in Stranraer, that would be at Culhorn or else at Newton Stewart at Barnkirk Depot. There is a online, I can email it to members after the meeting. There are online email addresses that they can contact, and we will provide litter picking tongs, high-vis vests, gloves and the green bags to put them in. And at the time of arranging to get the equipment, then if the person can tell us where they're going to leave the bags after the event, we'll certainly get out there and get them lifted as quickly as possible after the event.
That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicola. And does that answer the question, Councillor Hammond? I'm imagining so. Yeah, we've got a thumbs up there. Councillor Bendash.
Thanks, Chair. I've got a few wee questions. In regards to the burial strategy, we agreed a few key measures such as planting wildflowers in cemeteries and new signage for our burial ground management rules at our cemeteries. Could we get a verbal update on the progress of that? Thanks.
Nicola?
Yes, thank you. We're working through the action plan now, and that did include having signage created to display our management rules. So we're currently going through the procurement process for the signage. There was the wildflower planting hasn't happened as yet. We're hoping we can do some of that this year. We just were delayed, and then the weather wasn't suitable after that. So that's still very much in the plan. We have already extended the ability to pre-purchase layers in more of the cemeteries than were available prior to the burial strategy, as that was something that the public highlighted to us they were particularly keen on. We're also working through a process of creating casket-only interment areas in a number of cemeteries. That's still at the very early stages, and we're just sort of identifying suitable ground for that, but that'll come on stream very shortly. And we're also looking at providing further enhancements in some of the cemeteries in relation to memorial walls where people can display plaques, perhaps for people who have been cremated and their ashes scattered elsewhere, but still have a commemoration point within the cemeteries. So we're working our way through that list of actions, and we'll provide an update to members later this year to give more detail on that.
Councillor Ashburn.
Thank you, thanks for that. And in regards to the waste and recycling strategy, reuse strategy, sorry, One of the requests that I get quite frequently is from smaller settlements who don't have a glass bank or a bring bank in their village. Request one. I know we've got a policy or we follow guidelines around minimum population levels and such, but is that an ambition of the strategy, and is there any progress on implementing that going forward? Thank you.
Nicola?
On that one, I'll have to refer to my colleagues in the waste team and get an answer back to you, Councillor Dashper, on that. I don't have the specific detail. I know that initially we weren't looking at glass collections because there was intended to be the deposit return scheme coming on, which has been delayed, I think, until 2027. But I'll certainly ask that question and get some information sent directly to you.
Thanks for that,
Okay.
Nicola.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Ashford, that.
That's great, thanks.
Thanks for that. Moving on, Councillor McCallum.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And hi, Nicola. Good to see you again. Just a couple of quick comments, really, rather than anything. First one was on the battery collection, and given that myself and the Vice Chair at Economy and Infrastructure met with you last week or the week before, I think it was, and it was really, really interesting, some of the statistics that you were giving us and the wider team. But I just wondered, based on the good statistics, shall we say, the positive statistics on the battery collection so far, I wonder if we could request the team, the graphics team, to create a quick kind of visual for online, just to give us an update or give the public an update on the battery collection. That's my first request, please. Second one, Nicola, is about the garden waste rollout, which seems to have gotten off to a great start. Can we get the information resent, if it was sent before, resent to all community councils, because there's a couple of them that are asking me about it. Obviously missed the email or missed the information because they're keen to share it on their social medias and so on. And lastly, when we met, we had a chat about play parks and the ownerships of them. So, you know, the old stock from the council handing over to Wheatley, etc. And I requested a list of which we own or maintain. Is there any way that you could circulate that out to all members, please? Because it's something that, well, I certainly get asked a lot about. You know, who maintains this park, or you know, who cuts the grass there, or whatever. And it would be easy to have a reference to go to, just for you know, to make everyone's life a lot easier. Thank you, Nicola.
Nicola.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will ask the waste team to get graphics to do something on the battery collection. I think that would be positive, and it would be interesting for the public. And I'll ask them to recirculate the garden waste information to all the community councils as you've requested. I do have your list ready for the Wheatley Parks and ownership of parks, and I'll arrange for that to be sent out as soon as possible. There's still some dubiety over some areas, but we've covered that on the document, so it should be clearer for members, and I'll get that circulated as soon as possible.
Thanks for that, Nicola. Let's just make sure that we've got it in metric and not old tons, just that we don't confuse folk. Is that everything from you, Councillor McCarman?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Louise next.
Good morning. I just had a quick question on the free school meals. So 4.5.7. It's really positive to see that P6s and 7s are now being entitled to free school meals, but there's just one or two concerns that's been raised for Youth Council, is that young people are only entitled to break and lunch. I know there's a funding issue, but is there anything we can do locally to provide even just something little during break time or lunch time to ensure that that young person gets the food and nutrition that they need?
Nicola?
Jennifer will answer this one if that's okay, Chair.
Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Louise, for your question. It is a case that we are looking at different options across the region for morning break, the breakfast provision, as well as the lunch, and what that can be, how it can be delivered better. The breakfast club particularly is something for the primary schools that the team are working on just now, because there are other initiatives out there regarding the breakfast club. So there will hopefully be breakfast club, fruit kind of options through the day for the primary schools, and then alternative options at lunchtime as well, coming in the future.
Louise?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Just wanted a little quick update to see what was happening with it.
Thank you.
Good question, Louise. Members, is there any more questions for the officers? I'm not seeing any hands in the room, and I'm not seeing any online. So, members, I'm going to move to the recommendations, where members are asked to, sorry, one second, just this. Is that approve or where I need to get onto this? Let's see here. Yeah, you've got it there. Yeah. So, members are asked to, 1, review the 2024 to 2025 summary performance of the Wigtown area for the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of December 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and the appendix. We are asked to consider in 2.2 the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.5.1 to paragraphs 4.5.10, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to review and consider the other two? I've got nods in the room and I've got thumbs up online. Thank you very much. Members, moving on to item number 8. This is the 2024 to 2025 assessment, the 1st of April to 2024 to the 30th of December 2024 of Transport and Infrastructure Service Plan. Report by Interim Assistant Director, Transport and Infrastructure. We now have a Transport and Infrastructure Service Plan 2024 to 2025 report from the 1st of April to the 31st of December. The report states that there are no performance measures specific to the Wigtown area, and that any comments or requests from this meeting will be taken back to Economy and Infrastructure Committee for consideration. Having said that, there is some useful local information on 3 local projects. Having said that, I've lost my absolute place here, sorry. The 20 mile per hour speed limit in Newton Stewart and Minigaff, the Newton Stewart Flood Protection Scheme and the Loch Ryan Harbour Revision Order. Do members have any questions or comments on these or other items in the report? Tony Topping is available to answer members' questions and comments. Tony, have you got anything to add to the report?
Thanks, Chair. No, nothing further to add.
Thank you, Tony. Councillor Inglis.
I think Councillor Marsh wants to come in this one.
Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Councillor Inglis. Yeah, I jumped in on earlier. Yeah, I realise that this is a historic report from April to December last year, but it was in relation to page 91, 4.5.2 and the Newton Stewart Flood Scheme. The preparatory work for the hearing has been ongoing for some time now. I just wonder where we are, how much more has to be done, and are we anywhere near, now that we're in March 25, to a date for this hearing, because I know the general public are very keen to see this progress. Thank you.
That's Richard. Tony.
Thank you, Councillor. So, yeah, as you'll appreciate, this scheme is at the hearing stage at the moment. So it's obviously very, very, very delicate, and it's all being done through the reporter. So what I can report is that the flood team are keen to arrange a meeting with Cree Valley Community Council and ward members to discuss where things are at the moment. There's also, as you're probably aware, there is a council website that provides updates on documents, etc. But that's all I can provide at the moment. As I say, it is at the hearing stage at the moment, but the flood team are keen to meet with the Community Council and yourselves in the next month or so, and I think he'll be in touch with you to set something up, an in-person meeting in Newton Stewart.
Thanks for that, Tony. Richard, or Councillor Marsh.
Thank you for that, Tony. Obviously, I'm not aware of any invites going out as of yet to community councils and ourselves in relation to that meet, but that would suggest that that some time away from seeing a hearing date if we all also have to meet with the community bodies prior to that hearing itself. But I'll wait with bated breath. Thank you.
Councillor Hagman.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, on a similar point, and again, noting the comment from Councillor Marsh that this is a historic report. And I just really want to ask, where are we in terms of getting monthly updates out to the Community Council? I appreciate you've shared with us that the team are keen to meet and the reporter with the Free Valley Community Council and elected members, but this is the first that we're being made aware of it as far as I'm aware. And this is the key reason as to why originally several years ago the Community Council had made the request that was supported to get a monthly update. And I think it's important to stress that a monthly update may not have any further information, but it is just simply we're checking in with you this month. We can't offer any further information. The status quo is still as is. So I just wonder where is that request? Because I've made it to the Service Committee and it's not captured here. I appreciate this is the historic report, but I'm pretty certain my request was made before the 31st of December. We are being asked to consider any aspect of performance to be referred back. So if it's not being captured and it's not being taken forward, can we capture that as an action from today to go back? Because there's just, clear communication avoids people from filling in the gaps with maybe misinformation. And I think that's my concern. We just need to ensure that everybody's aware where we are in the process of this. Thank you.
Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Whilst I'm not fully up to speed on that project, I can relay those comments back to the project team. However, I think this meeting that there's been no invites sent out yet for it, but this meeting with the Community Council and yourselves, this will give you a chance to address issues such as communications, updates, that sort of thing. So,
Councillor Hagman.
No, that's helpful to note. So I just don't know how that gets minuted if it comes as a specific action as part of the recommendation 2.3, or whether it remains as a separate action. As long as we're clear in the governance of that, that's fine. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hagman. Councillor McCall.
Yeah, thank you. Just to shed some light on the topic of the flood scheme of Newton Stewart. Tony, as you quite rightly mentioned, there is keenness from the flood protection scheme gang, if you like, to engage with both the Community Council and members. Again, I was at the Cree Valley Community Council on Monday evening. Myself and Councillor Ingalls were there, and they made reference that the team had been in touch with them. So I wouldn't chase that up as such, but I would chase the invite out to members, if you like, because myself and David did ask if the Community Council would like us present, and they were keen to have us there. So the team are liaising with the Community Council. It's maybe just lack of information that's being sent to members, like Councillor Hagman's just said. So it was just to kind of give you a little bit of extra information there, Tony, and to the wider committee. Thanks.
Tony, anything to add?
No, nothing further to add. Thanks for that, Councillor. That's good to know. But yes, please be assured that there is a meeting, and all members from Newton Stewart will be, and for that ward will be invited.
Councillor Dashbar.
Thanks, Chair. Little bit of a curveball question. It's not mentioned in the report specifically, but my question is about the Dromore A716 diversion programme route at Kilstay Bay. As we all know, it's one of the most flooded roads in the region and closes really frequently. But it seems to be a bit of an elephant in the room in terms of the diversion project for that. We don't really seem to get that many updates specifically. So could we get a wee little verbal update, please? Thanks.
I'm glad it's a curveball on the relevant subject. Councillor Dashford. Tony.
Apologies, I'll have to take that one away. Yes, as you say, it's not featured in this report, and that's what I thought we had been focusing on today. But I can take that query away, and if we make a note of the specific details of the inquiry, then we'll definitely get a response on that.
Can that be circulated to the whole committee, please, Tony? Councillor Ashburn.
Yes.
No, thank you. That'd be great. Thanks.
That's that. Councillor David Ingles.
Thanks, Chair. I just to go back to the flood scheme, my recollection is that the flood team gave a commitment to do a regular update to the community, like some sort of briefing paper or whatever that came out to the community regularly so that they knew exactly what was happening. That hasn't really happened. And I know that there's not a great deal to report, but at least as the councillors have mentioned, it would keep it to the forefront of people's minds. The other thing on the flood scheme that I think is worth noting here, since the Sparland Bridge was moved, I've been getting reports from people who live along the side of the river that the flooding, when there is a spate, is not coming up as high as it used to when the old Sparland Bridge was there. And I think there should be an impact assessment done as to the benefit of moving that Sparland Bridge and the works that's going to be done below the Sparland Bridge down towards the bypass bridge. So it would be worth us feeding that back to the flood team to ask them if they could do that. And I understand it's not Tony's remit this, because it would be Michael Smith probably, Tony, I think that this would need to go back to, but maybe you could feed that back and ask him, even if you wanted to give us a ring, just to talk over what I've been told by residents along the riverside below the main bridge in the town, you know, and how the moving of the Sparland Bridge and the raising the Sparland Bridge now lets the water flow an awful lot easier, and it's getting away compared to what it used to do when the old bridge was there. And it would just be interesting to know how that is impacting, if they've done any assessment of that, you know. And I don't want to alter the flood scheme, but I think it's important that they look at that and see what that impact is like and talk to the people that's on the riverside. Thanks.
Tony?
Yeah, thanks, councillor. No, that's a good, valid point, and I would like to say yes, that the modelling for the flood prevention scheme will take into account what the current site is like, and that will obviously include the current location, invert level, abutments, etc. of the current Sparling Bridge. But I'll feed that information back to Michael. Thanks.
That's that, Tony. Members, I have no more hands up in the room, and I've got no more hands up online. So I'll move to recommendations, which are to, number one, review the 2024 to 2025 summary performance of the Wigtown area for the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of December, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and the appendix. 2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraphs 4.5.1 to 4.5.3, and number 3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Members, are we happy to review, consider and consider? I'm getting yes in the room and nothing online. So members, I'll move on to item number 9, which is the assessment 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of December 2024 of Economy and Environment Service Plan, report by the Head of Economy and Environment. We now have the Economy and Environment Service Plan 2024-2025 report. This is again a detailed report with a great deal of information specific to our area. It's reassuring to see that all performance measures for our area are on track and that none of the project's performance is outside acceptable limits. It's good to see the detail in the SHIP work with partners and housing development moving forward for our area, including the completed work at the Garrick Hospital and other works in progress. It is good to see some brief detail on the Straw waterfront developments and ongoing developments at the George Hotel. I believe there's around 8.7 million allocation for the George Hotel and around 60 million for the Straw waterfront. The work on the Borderlands place plans, which are beginning to be endorsed by the council, along with some of the 50 local place plans. I'm sure members will have comments and questions about these and the potential for realising capital investment along with questions about the coastal paths. It is good to have this wide-ranging update report, and I'll turn it over to members for questions and comments for Stuart McMillan and Jamie Little, who are available. Stuart and Jamie, do you have anything to add before I put this over to members?
I certainly don't, Chair. Happy to take questions. I think Jamie will be the same.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just two small questions this afternoon, one for Jamie and one for Stuart. On page 98, in regard to the SHIP, I just wanted to say that I'm sure the community of Glenluce will be delighted to see the information in here, that the proposed start date on the site will be this year. Much anticipated, the additional housing in Glenluce, but also added to that, the fact that Jamie had emailed this week to say that the more kind of permanent fencing is due to be constructed on the 24th of March. I know, going to the community council there in the last few months, that there was much concern that nothing had been happening, and that didn't seem to be any progress even on erecting the fence, but they'll be delighted to hear that that's now happening, and also that with the addition of extra Scottish Government funding, that this project in Glenluce may come to fruition this financial year. And the second question, if I can find it, was in relation to page 100 and the George Hotel works. It states in there that the anticipated opening is going to be Q2 25-26, but yet we're still liaising and the work is ongoing with various operators or various options for operators. I just wonder, what is a level of concern there, and are we any further forwards in identifying those operators? I think maybe my first one was more of a statement, and thank you to James as opposed to a question, but that's me, Chair. Thank you.
Moving on to Stuart.
Thanks, thanks, Chair, and thanks for your question, Councillor Marsh. So your question really relates to where we're at with the operating model and the plan for the occupation of the various parts of the George Hotel. That's something that we're currently going through a process of revising all of the potential expenditure and revenue options that we have for the hotel in preparation for a process of identifying users and occupiers. Now, we have a range of things that we're considering, a range of options that we have in terms of which range from a backstop option of council management of the facility for a limited period, through to the initial envisaged plan, which was immediate and full occupancy by community organisations and operators, etc. So that's work is ongoing. We're in the process of appointing some specialist advice around that. We're also in the process of working with Scotland's Futures Trust about different models of delivery as well. So some interesting things going on. We're not unduly concerned about that at the moment, Councillor Marsh, just to sort of touch on the point of, are we concerned, what are the risks on that, etc. Because we are running a number of options in tandem at present.
Councillor Marsh.
That'll do for now, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart.
Excellent. Louise.
I just had a quick question on the Rins and Galloway coastal paths, specifically more Cairn, Ryan and Castle Kennedy based. The paths are not accessible and the Youth Council are hoping to fix this, so I was just wondering if we'd get any support from you guys in order to help us create safer paths for people to get to these places.
Sure.
I'll need to take that one back to the environment team and the wardens, the path wardens out in that part of the region. But happy to come back to take that offline and come back to you on that one.
That's right. That's actually an ongoing piece of work that I think we're going to be taking up as through the elected members of the Rins and Galloway's meetings with our youth councillors. We're taking that forward. It would be good to maybe have someone from your team come to one of those meetings to address this issue, because that was raised at our meeting last time, and I think we might want to do a bit of work on that and see what funding's available through West Strands. Are you content with that, Louise? I'm getting a nod. Councillor Dashworth.
Thanks, Chair. My question is about the housing development at the Lockins. Says that Wheatley Home Self opposing development there at the minute. I've been to the Community Council and they sort of seem none the wiser about the current progress of what's going on. It says that engagement has been commenced. Jamie, could you just expand on the challenges at this particular site and what engagement you're aware that Wheatley have done so far? Thanks.
Jamie.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Dashworth. So in terms of engagement, I understand there's been quite a bit of engagement with the local community regarding the site layout and design. I know that the local residents have been really keen to ensure that maintenance and creation of the sustainability of the play park within the site is continued, and that access can be granted to any of the local residents as well as new residents who move in there. So the engagement has advanced. Unfortunately, this time that there are some other infrastructure issues within the site, including the provision of Scottish water connections to the properties. And effectively, this has meant that Wheatley, while they're still engaging heavily with Scottish Water to try and resolve these matters, in terms of taking forward the development, it has had to slip slightly down their business plan to a later year. We are seeking regular updates on this site and recognise that there is a significant opportunity to meet demand in the Lockins. But we at this time, we don't have a firm date when the planning application can be resubmitted. However, we'll ensure that elected members in the area are kept appraised of all future updates.
Thanks for that, Jamie. Councillor Dashworth.
Thank you. That's great. And a question for Stuart as well. In regards to the car scheme, when we did the arches, I'm assuming there was a business case put forward for the use of the building. Currently, it doesn't seem to be being used for anything really after we repaired the frontage of it. Could you just expand on the business case for their intended use? Thanks.
Great question, Councillor Dashworth. This has been a hot iron in Stranraer for quite a while now, Stuart. People are wanting to see some return for that public investment. Can you give us some updates?
Yeah, happy to do that. The specific I can't say that word. The specifics of that, though, I'll need to double check. My understanding of what was required in terms of a submission for car support was very much directed to the gap funding that would relate to doing the historic standard, the conservation areas, the conservation standard repairs to the fabric of the building to secure the building for the long, for the long term as part of its contribution to the conservation area and the townscape of Stranraer, and less about the after use of that. So now that I'm not saying that wasn't a part and parcel of it. It would absolutely be part of that consideration, but the primary consideration on CARS grants is the state of the building, the dilapidation of it, the need for the repairs, and the difficulty in the owner being able to make the necessary conservation standard repairs to the building, and that's what the grant is there to assist them to do. But I'll check. Obviously, the CARS project is essentially concluded, but we'll do some checking in the office just about what the follow-ups are and our knowledge of where the owner of the building is at with seeking its occupation.
Thanks for that, Stuart. I knew that the CARS project was more on the townscape rather than on the actual use of the building afterwards or during the works. But I've been asking these questions for quite a while about the CARS project, and now that the project is concluded, can we make sure there's a report brought back, a monitoring report on what was spent, how much was spent where, and what the positive outcomes of that's been? That's something that has not been coming forward. I've asked for it in EMES 2 to 3 times in the past year. I've been told that it will come at some point, but I've been waiting a while. Thanks for that, and thanks, Councillor Ashburn, for giving me that in. I wasn't planning on talking about that today. Councillor Ingalls.
Thanks, Chair. Page 98, a question for Jamie on that one would be target start date for Corsby Road in Newton Stewart. You want me to rattle through about 3-4 questions?
Are they all relevant to each other, Councillor Ingalls?
No, really. No.
Go for a couple and then we'll do another couple.
Yeah, well, maybe Jamie can answer that one first of all.
Jamie?
Thanks, Councillor Ingalls. So again, there are some infrastructure issues at Corsby Road that need to be overcome, and the target site start is within the summer of 25 at the moment. Again, we'll be guided by how the infrastructure issues are resolved, but it's certainly something that within the programme of funding that we are expecting to receive in 25-26, we are anticipating that with Wheatley Home South we're able to progress that one at an early stage. It's seen as one of the key projects in 25-26 in terms of utilising the resource planning assumptions that come to the region. So I will absolutely confirm that when we have more solidity around the start date, but the expectation right now is within the summer of 25.
Councillor Ingalls.
Thanks, Jamie. And can you tell me, are there any access issues with that site?
There are potential issues in terms of access to the site that need to be overcome. We're working very closely with colleagues across the council to try and resolve some of those matters, and it's something that may well require some elected member consideration. I'm sure the members of this committee will be aware that the council is in ownership of the strip of land that abuts between the road and the Corsby Road site, and in terms of our standard processes, the council is expected to achieve value for money in terms of any agreement for access onto that site. But obviously in terms of supporting the development, there's going to need to be some further consideration around how we actually make this project move forward.
Councillor Ingalls.
Okay, yeah, the main concern was the traffic coming out of that site down into Newton Stewart. I wondered if there had been any issues flagged up by roads on that one, Jamie.
Yeah, so in terms of the planning considerations that have gone through the approval, there have been some requirements to upgrade the roads that do lead down into Newton Stewart from the site, given the expectation that there's going to be additional traffic caused by the new homes. So that will be a requirement of the works that will be undertaken at an early stage, and included in that will be a management plan for construction traffic during the construction phase of the site that we put in place as well. So roads are heavily consulted throughout this process to ensure that they're satisfied that any traffic can either be managed appropriately in and around the site or can be diverted down necessary routes.
Councillor Ingalls.
Thanks, Chair. On page 99, short-term let licences, just wondering what the take-up is on that now. Is there any lag? Is there any properties that we're aware of that, are not getting those applications in and our applications being dealt with on time? I know there's a time scale involved.
Sure. Oh, Jamie, sorry.
Yep, me again, Chair. Thanks again, Councillor Ingalls. So in terms of short-term lets, we have been able, with some incredibly hard work from the team, to achieve short-term let licence application assessments within the specified time period. So would obviously highlight the team have worked incredibly hard on adopting this new system and putting this into place, and it has been a success. In terms of identifying further properties that we believe may well be operating as short-term lets, within current resources, what we are looking to do is carry out further investigation in collaboration with colleagues from council tax and assessors, just to identify where we believe there may be additional properties. We've had over 1,700 applications so far across the whole region. There's some areas of significant demand, particularly in the west, and we do believe that there are still a number of properties that are yet to apply for their licences. And we are hoping that we'll be able to carry out some investigation work and certainly encourage these people initially to submit their licence applications and then progress to any action that we do need to take. But at the moment, the take-up has been very strong. And we've been recognised nationally in terms of the positive approach that's been taken to operating short-term let licensing scheme in Dumfries and Galloway.
Councillor Ingalls.
Good news on that one, Jamie. On page 100, I've got a couple of questions. The George Hotel, there was a request a number of times for elected member meetings to take place on site. I don't know whether that, I haven't heard anything as to whether that has actually happened or not, and I think we sort of emphasised it was quite important that, especially the Ward 1 members, you know, were able to engage with the project team and get an insight, a first-hand insight into what's happening on the site. I'm wondering if there's a difficulty with that, Stuart, maybe, or if it's still something that can be organised, or...
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Ingalls. So a number of dates have been offered through the Project Management Office. Gillian Harris will have been sending out times where appropriate times where she can organise access with the contractor to get members on. I think Councillor Scopey was perhaps on site last week, and I don't have them all in my own diary when she pings them out, but I know there has been that push to make sure that if members want to get access to site, that can be arranged, and Gillian has made some times available. I realise members' diaries will be extraordinarily busy, so sometimes those slots might not be quite able to be picked up on. But we're still keen to do that. Still, the invitation is there. Just needs a little bit of planning through the PMO office to get the necessary safety equipment, etc., all organised, etc. So, that's a standing offer, Councillor Ingalls. And I can certainly pick up with Gillian if there isn't another one sort of targeted in the diaries. I'm sure we can get that.
But thanks for that, Stuart. I've maybe misunderstood what we asked for. I thought we were looking for a group to engage with the contractor, or that was my understanding, was that we were going to be as a group of councillors meeting with them and not individually select our own slots.
No, I think just to be clear, Chair, Gillian has essentially made available slots where that meeting can all be arranged. It just needs the councillors to say, yes, I will be attending. She can arrange the safety equipment. We can do a tour of the progress, speak to the contractors if that's requested, and then have a huddle somewhere if that's wanted. So because there's a bit of there's some really good progress on the site. There's a lot to see now. We're about halfway through the build, I suppose, so you'll be aware of everything sort of taking shape on site, and it would be a good point at which to come together and do that. So as I say, I think there was a sort of 1 a month slot had initially been arranged, but maybe we've got our messaging just between us all just slightly confused on that, Chair, and we can pick that up.
I was expecting personally that we would just have a slot put into our calendar and it was a yay or nay if you could go and like most other things. But Councillor Inglis wants to come back in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you putting that in place, Stuart. I know it's difficult when you're dealing with a site like that. It's up to the Ward 1 members if they want to take that up. So I appreciate that. So I'll go on to my second question on page 100. There's a commitment from the Scottish Government a number of years ago, 10 years ago maybe, for a £5 million sum to be spent on Stranraer waterfront. I'm not sure if it was ring fenced for the East Pier or whether it was to be the whole waterfront. Can you give some clarity again on that as to whether it was ring fenced to be spent specifically on the East Pier or whether it can be used as part of the Borderlands programme or whether it's to be used on the waterfront?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Ingalls. So it was 6 million, and the commitment was to Stranraer as a whole for investment in projects and priorities identified by the community. So that was the sort of parameters around it. So not a specific ring fence to the waterfront or the pier, etc. But it was all triggered by the issues around the ferries leaving the pier, and the progress that's been made on that has been tied into the development of the Stranraer Place Plan and the approval of the town investment plan by E&I committee last year and the Borderlands Partnership Board as well. So what the Scottish Government have agreed is that those investment priorities can call on that £6 million as part of the match funding to build up the pots of budget to deliver on those priority projects within the police plan. So the 6 projects in there. So that is currently what where that stands and what we're currently working to. And we are liaising with the Scottish Government regeneration team to build a financial profile of drawdown now of what that would look like. And that ties into the investment plan for the Borderlands spend.
Councillor Ingle.
Yeah, so does that then alter the Borderlands investment that's coming into Stranraer, or is it in addition to the Borderlands investment that's coming into Stranraer? It's an addition.
It's in addition. What this sort of tactic, this sort of line of investment was known about in the development of the place plan, of course, and so the financial programme that was put together to support the projects essentially incorporated both the 6 million from Scottish Government and the 3 million being made available through the Borderlands deal to give a package of 9 million in total that they could see and they could seek commitment on, plus anything else that they might be able to pull in. So it is both. It's additional money.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Stuart. That gives clarity and good news for Stranraer.
That's well, Councillor Ingles. Councillor Hagman.
Thanks, convener, and yeah, thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Jamie, for the report. I think just to touch upon the comments that were just made there, I think there's been numerous references to the £6 million from Scottish Government, and every single time Scottish Government have been really clear, the money's there. The money's been there, there's never been any question, and the continued question of have Scottish Government still got the money there, that's never changed in all the years, and certainly it's 2 years since I've was no longer the chair of the Economy and Resources Committee. And I think we need to start questioning, and it's not a criticism of any one individual, but the question needs to be pointed at the local authority potentially at this point, because the money's been there. The messaging I've received Scottish Government have been waiting for essentially us to do the work and to make that business case. And I appreciate it takes time, but this continuing questioning Scottish Government if the money's there, I think we maybe need to look and focus on where the political direction is within Dumfries and Galloway Council as to how we're progressing that. What's our responsibility in this? So, you know, that's maybe more comment, and it maybe doesn't need any response from an official point of view, but I would like that on the record, because, you know, the messaging from Scottish Government has never changed on this. And every time we ask the question, we keep getting told we need to do the business case. And once we've done that, the money will be released. So perhaps, you know, again, this is something that maybe needs to be referred back to the relevant service committee as part of our report. But I would expect we will be getting that anyway, and we do get regular updates to the service committee. Obviously, there's the new service committee now and there. So I'll maybe just leave that as a comment, because as I say, it's not meant as a criticism of any individual council officer, but it is about that sort of direction for the council. My specific question I wanted to come in, and it was to touch upon the issues of access and accessibility for core paths. Again, we agreed at committee, and it was then the Economy and Resources Committee back in January 24, so well over a year ago, that we would do a review of our core path network. I'm conscious that we agreed that that would sit with the Outdoor Access Forum, and I'm conscious that Councillor Ingalls is the elected member that sits on that outside body, but I also am acutely aware that there has been issues in terms of getting dates in the diary for that. But it would be really important to get an update of what is happening with that, and just to, you know, really clarify that Dumfries and Galloway Council is the access authority. We retain the legal responsibility for access of our core paths, and there are some legal requirements. So it's really great that the Youth Council have been trying to find ways to improve that, but it would be helpful. And again, perhaps we want to capture this as an action, or perhaps under 2.3, an aspect to be going back to the service committee. Where are we with that? Because, you know, 14 months later, I'm not even aware if the review has even started, despite that direction being given. And equally, back in committee, back in January 2024, we got the revenue update that there was £135,000 being allocated for core path improvements. What was that funding spent on? You know, did any of that go to the Rins of Galloway? It may well have done. I simply don't know. So again, referring back to getting further information, I'm not expecting anybody on the call here to have that level of detail, but it would be really useful to get an update, and perhaps even a members briefing, if it, you know, because all members will be interested in this, I'm sure, not just the members that sit in the Economy and Infrastructure Committee. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hammond. You're right. The money has been sat with the Scottish Government, and it is for us in the Council to access that and come up with a proposal. And one of the things that Stuart said earlier on was about how the money was not ring-fenced for the waterfront and was actually for the wider use of the town. I remember asking years ago of Ewan Green and then latterly Jan Faulkner what that money was dedicated for, and they both told me it was for the East Pier. Has there been a change in that position? Sure, and you can answer that after you've done Katie's wee bit. It's just a wee bit to add on to there.
So thanks very much, and it maybe apologies for there not being somebody from the countryside team and the paths team on the call who could probably just deal really quickly with the points that have been raised on the core paths and the access side of things. I'm afraid we'll have to go back and ask those questions. So we'll have to take those as actions, as takeaways. And on the Scottish Government funding side of things, I suppose other officers may have interpreted the intent of the 6 million in different ways in the past, but our touch point on it has been recently is to go back and actually look at what the Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, he was the Deputy First Minister at the time, actually said, and he talked about the whole of the town. He he talked about community identified priorities. And I think what has been the thing that has taken the time has been the way in which those community priorities could properly emerge and the Scottish Government could come behind. And the place plan has been so effective in doing that. That has brought a total alignment, I think, on behalf of the town, the council, and the Scottish Government to say yes, that has been such an effective process of identifying projects and identifying projects. It ticks all those buttons. So and this month, March, what essentially the Scottish Government, so I'll add a little bit onto this, what we've been asked to do this month is essentially to write a regeneration capital grant fund type application to the regeneration team that says, for Stranraer in the year ahead, this is what we would like to draw down, and these are the purposes that we would like to put that to. So that work is currently being done by my team, by Stranraer Development Trust, and some appointed consultants just to develop that and quantify that and submit that to the regeneration unit in Scottish Government this month. And that will allow them in their budget setting and spending review ahead, etc., to be able to ensure that that line of funding is essentially starts. Thanks very much, Chair.
That's right. Councillor Hagman, has that answered the question? I'm sorry to have interrupted your question.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I mean, I think it's a spending review. I think is it the 6th of June. I want to think that there are dates on there. So I just think we need to be clear and actually show our progress of taking the responsibility of this is what we're doing. And I appreciate that we need to go forward in a measured way. But, we also need to start moving at pace on this. There's been a huge amount of work put into this. And certainly, my thanks to the Stranraer Place team and the town team and all, there's a real buzz about the town. I think we absolutely need to be celebrating that. But now we need to get on with it. It just feels we spend so much time talking about this that it would be really lovely to actually see the release of having that money and actually let's get on with delivering for the people. Thanks.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a number of things I was going to say have been said, so I won't go over them. I do have a concern, though, page 98. Jamie, when you were speaking, replying to Councillor Ingalls about the Crosby Road, Newton Stewart, and you were talking about the roads access. I did raise this in planning. I have major concerns over how that development is going to go ahead and the roads access. Quite frequently, on a daily basis, the school buses are going up the road and having to reverse back down. It's going to cause quite a lot of disruption. So the roads team, I don't know if you can go back to them, but they really need to come out and they really need to have a look at that again before somebody is seriously injured, because I have major concerns regarding that. Also, Wheatley Homes are informing people that the development is going to start at Easter and the houses are going to be built by January. Which isn't the information you gave us. So if we could have some clarity around that, even emailed to us through yourselves, that would be really good to put out in the public domain so that, people are not potentially thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to apply for this house, I'm going to be able to move. And also residents up there can potentially put in different routes to get to work or get the kids to and from school, because it is just going to be a nightmare. Thanks.
Jamie.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hill. I'll obviously take some of those comments away in terms of discussions with the roads colleagues. I don't have the exact requirements around the planning obligations in front of me, but I would expect they've been heavily consulted in terms of ensuring the safety of that site. What I will do, though, is in terms of the development site start, can advise that we are engaging with development management or the development manager at Wheatley Home South on a regular basis in terms of that site delivery. I will absolutely clarify the site start dates. Obviously don't want to get mixed messages coming out of Wheatley Home South but the expectation is that on a site of this nature, it will be some time until the homes can be occupied safely. But we'll come back with some further detail there for you, Councillor.
Thanks, Jimmy. Councillor Hill? Happy with that. Councillor Ingles?
Aye. It was really just to go back to the 6 million. It would appear that the place plan, which you've already stated, the place plan and the Borderlands funding have sort of triggered the release, or at least the accessibility of this £6 million, which is really good news. Because in the past it has been the case that nobody seemed to know what we could use it for, or it wasn't really clear what we could use it for. So it's really good that it's been the place plan process and then the Borderlands funding as well that's triggered that. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Councillor Ingles. Sure, I don't think there's a comment for that, is there? No. We'll move on to Councillor McCarman.
Yeah, just a comment, Chair, and to Stuart as well. Given that I'm the Vice Chair of the Economy and Infrastructure Committee, I'm going to take back these concerns to the Directorate. Stuart, I'll probably request your attendance as well on that. But what I will say is that this has been discussed in the Service Committee and it will be discussed in the Service Committee, which is cross-party. So any delay or lack of delay or moving forward is down to committee decisions. So yeah, just thought I'd put that on record, please, Chair.
Thanks for that, Councillor McCarman. Well, members, if we've not got any more hands up in the room or online, we'll move to the recommendations. So, moving to the recommendations are 2.1, review the 2024 to 2025 summary performance for the Wigtown area for April the 1st, 2024 to the 31st of December 2024, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4. And the appendix 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of the report, paragraphs 4.51 to 4.5.15, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Members, are we happy to review, consider and consider? I'm seeing no hands up apart from Councillor McCarman's and now Councillor Hagman's.
Apologies, that's
Legacy, not a problem.
Legacy.
I like how it's been coined Legacy Hand. I think Ian Crothers came up with that one years ago and it's just kind of snowballed. Exactly. So, Councillor Hagman.
Yeah, thanks. Can we just confirm how we're capturing any actions or if they're going to be referred back? I had various questions in terms of the review of the core path and the role of the Access Forum and the role of Dumfries and Galloway Council as the access authority.
So I believe Stuart's taking forward actions, but I also know that our clerk Claire has got everything wrote down, and I will pass the word to Claire.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, a note of actions have been taken and will be getting put on the systems in the usual way so members can track those. Thank you.
So to confirm, they'll be added to the action tracker. I'm getting a nod from governance. Yeah, it'll be added to the action tracker. Oh, so yes, Councillor Hagman?
Can I ask then, in that case, do we maybe need to update our recommendations? Because these are standard recommendations and we always get asked, are there any areas to refer back? And if we never refer back, but we just put them onto an action tracker, do we need to update the recommendations to say that you know, we note it and we note the actions arising from committee? Because I'm just not sure why we have in the wording of referring back to the service committee when we never seem to do that. We'd go forward in terms of an action tracker.
That's how Hammond governance has got.
Thank you. There may be occasion when the area committee decides there is something of significant nature that would require referral back to the service committee. So there's always that option there. But as you're quite correct, the minute usually says that there's no issues to be referred back. But where things are, say in the previous item, so significant that perhaps you want rather than just to say consider the achievements. Like for the previous item, we'll expand the minute to mention, I know we're in item 9 now, but I did make a note to formally note that there'll be a meeting arranged with the local members about the flood team issue at Newton Stewart, that type of thing. So we can expand on those recommendations there to make it a bit clearer, but we wouldn't really get into noting the actions as such. Thank you.
Is there anything of particular significance, Councillor Hammond, that you would like added to the minute?
Well, it's just how we capture the actions. And I know that this is a discussion that's been had in a various formats because, you know, are the actions appended to the minute? No, the action tracker isn't, but I know members get sight of the action tracker now, and it's just how we're capturing that. But I mean, I'm happy to be guided by Claire and the governance on this one. Thanks.
Claire?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, there is a process that's quite often used at the end of committee where the governance officer will go through the actions with the Chair and Vice Chair just to provide that assurance that all actions have been captured, and then they get added to the action tracker where all members can see those.
You happy for that process to go ahead, Katie? Councillor Hammond, or would you like
no,
to...
No, that's fine, and I totally understand that that's the agreed process going forward. It's just how do members of the public, when looking at the minute, know that we've taken those forward? But as I say, I'm happy to leave it as that. I don't think we're going to get a full response here today, and we'll get the action tracker to all members, and that's fine. But it's one maybe consideration going forward. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hammond. I get exactly what you're saying. It's difficult for a member of the public to go online, watch this meeting, look at the minutes, and then think, well, where's that going? And the public don't get access to that action tracker. Claire would like to come back in.
Just for one final comment, if there is anything of such significant that members would like minuted, can always expand on the recommendations to make clearer what's being considered. But at the moment, if you're right, there's no public access to the action tracker. Thank you.
Are we all content? Members, moving on to item number... Actually, so we have reviewed in item number 9, we've reviewed, considered and we're happy to move on. Yes, members, not a problem. So members, moving on to item number 10, Wigtown Area Discretionary Budget Monitoring Report 2024 to 2025, report by the Head of Thriving Communities. Where we now have the Discretionary Budget Monitoring Report, which gives details from the groups receiving discretionary budget funding from this committee and detailing the impact these funds have made within local communities in our area. It is useful also to see some of the pictures of events accompanying the performance information. A huge range of activities are detailed in the appendix. It is always inspiring to hear what our communities can achieve with a little funding support through this committee. Members will also note that there is a small carry forward of £300 unutilised from last year. Gillian Collins is available to answer members' questions and comments. Gillian, do you have anything to add before we go into the members' questions?
Thanks, Chair. I've got nothing to add. Happy to take questions.
Members, any questions? Councillor Dashper.
Thank you. Is there going to be a workshop/seminar for the criteria for the new financial year? Yep.
Gillian.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, there is. An invite should have come out through Modern Gov yesterday for the 18th of March.
Thank you.
That's right, Gillian. Councillor.
Can I just say there was a seminar last year that happened during the Easter holidays when schools were off. I'm a single parent. I attended it. Other councillors didn't. So I'm hoping this year, if there is a seminar, that all of the councillors attend it, because if not, it's a waste of time when some do, and then we go to committee and then we have to discuss things and things aren't put in place.
Any other members? One thing I would add about seminars, can we avoid Fridays? And that's all I've got to add to that. And I've had my pronunciation raised. It's 300 underspend on utilised from last year, not 300. Councillor Hagman.
Thanks, Chair. Always welcome a bit of Galloway Scots, so I would never take forward those corrections. I would stick with them. Yeah, just on the point of seminar. So clearly they're not a decision-making forum, and certainly I think it's fair to say all members would attempt to attend those if they can. But you know, clearly we are very busy. I was at the one last year, and I think it would be really wonderful, and I'm going to put on my request right now, that any proposals or options coming forward from officials, and I appreciate it's for us to decide as elected members, that we're really brave with those. Often we get the same reports back year after year, and certainly I think there was quite a consensus last year that this is not a huge amount of money, but we've got the option to be, I think I used the word radical with it, and actually appreciate that nobody maybe wants to change things, because that might mean that some people might lose out, but it also might mean some people might do better. So I guess it's just a little plea from myself to the officials who are going to be pulling together that members' workshop. Can we have the support to maybe think a bit differently, a bit more radically, and be a bit more braver with some of this funds, if possible. And clearly, if members choose to stick with the status quo, then that's down to members. Thanks.
So I'm thinking, Councillor Hagman, that we need to go further than a briefing for this then. If we're going to be radical, we need to maybe have more of a workshop that is guided / supported by officers, to create something, allow us to create something or formulate something that we would like to take forward with their support. Am I hitting the nail on the head there? Because I know that the briefings that we get are maybe they're a continuation of the current framework, and you're looking that we would like to be radical and change the framework and the way that we do things. And I'm not against that. I'm actually maybe for that. But I think it needs more than a briefing. We need to be sat in the room. There needs to be a flip chart or something like that there, and we need to be working through the business and creating something. Am I on the right path here, Councillor Hagman?
So it's not to say that we absolutely would, but it's at least to give us the space to at least consider it. And, you know, ultimately we may decide that the best use of these limited funds are, you know, following the existing frameworks that we have used for many years. That may well be the case, but it's a really challenging way forward of are there other ways of distributing the funds? And it's just to give us that little bit of space. And it may well be that we feel that the best use of the funds is through the existing frameworks, but it's just to allow that space. And I wouldn't preempt members' debate on this one. However, I'm acutely aware that over the last 7 years, we spend about 2 hours going through the different scenarios, and we end up at the same position because it's just too difficult. And if that's the case, then so be it. But let's be brave enough to at least open up the conversation.
Happy to be bold, Councillor Hagman. I think Gillian Collins has taken down what we were saying there. Am I right, Gillian, that maybe it's a full day kind of workshop scenario we need to go through if we're looking at being radical here?
Thanks, Chair. Though the strategic framework will be presented to Education, Skills and Community Wellbeing Committee on the 22nd of April, outlining your key priorities. So the members' seminar workshop will take place before that. Due to reporting timelines, that we need to get the report ready to come to the May Wigtown Area Committee for members to make a decision to be able to open funds in whatever way members see fit for the next financial year.
Thanks for that, Gillian. I've got Councillor Hill next.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we did have this conversation last year at the area committee, following on from the members' seminar that there was only myself, David Ingalls and Richard Marsh present at. And on that day, we did spend, I think it was 4 hours with you, Gillian, and Ingrid, maybe it's 5 hours, going over different scenarios of how we could change things and how we could bring things forward. And when we spoke about it in committee after that in the public domain, it was highlighted that the seminars members don't need to attend because they're not a decision-making body. So what we need to get clear today between all members is we need this seminar so that the officer can bring suggestions forward. But are we going to have a full day meeting on how we can change it in the public domain so that the public are aware of the changes that we're making, or are we having that during the seminar? Because there was confusion last year and there was no decision made. And like I say, there was only 3 Conservative members that actually turned up to the seminar, and it did take about 5 hours of the officers' time, which is precious because they have a long job to do, but they do have to get these reports out. So we need to have some clarity today around the table of, you know, the decisions need to be made in public, but the officer has to do a report. So if we're going to make these changes, we need to be making those in the public domain. So it maybe needs to be a special meeting about this in public. I think we need governance on that to see where we go. Thanks.
I'm taking a wee second to think about that, but I'll pass over to governance to give an opinion or thoughts on that.
Thank you. Just to reiterate that workshop seminars are non-decision making forums, and decision making is for the area committee. Thank you.
So I think there, Claire, what we're trying to tease out, or what Councillor Hill is trying to tease out, is how do we have a process that is engaging and interactive to change things and really discuss the hard issues in a public forum, whilst being a wee bit free to discuss everything without almost committing yourself to a decision on that day. Or I don't know, am I getting that right, Councillor Hill? You're wanting a workshop kind of based approach where we're going to discuss, we're going to try and create a framework and then agree it on the day, all in the public domain.
I think how we spoke about it last year, and as Councillor Hagman has said there, things need to change, and as you've said, we need to look at this from a different way. A lot of the communities getting wind farm money could potentially, some of the Christmas light money could be looked at to be used in different ways. There's lots of different angles we can go down. But in order to make these decisions in a seminar, we can't do it. But we do have to have a seminar to give the officers the opportunity to bring a paper forward. But like I say, 3 of us sat for 5 hours last year on this seminar, helping the officer to get the paper ready to bring forward, and then it was all changed at the committee. So it's kind of like a backwards way forward of doing things. And if we could look at a better system of how to do that, and a system where all elected members attend to make these decisions, it would be great. And I know decisions can't be made out of the public domain, so it's how do you do that rather than wasting 5 hours of your time and then things being changed in committee.
I'm going to get a wee bit more member input, Sam, before I go back to officers on this, and we'll have a wee think at the end of the contribution. I've got Councillor McCalman next.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I would agree with yourself, with your decision and or suggestion and Katie Hagman's. Seminars are definitely not a place to sit for 5 hours and make strategic decisions. I think one of the problems last year was the fact that it was broadly discussed which organisation got a certain amount of money, and that is absolutely not for private sessions. So we can do all the workings out and whatever in public, and the allocations are in public, but if you want to sit for 5 hours and discuss the strategic way forward, that's not within a seminar. It's not what seminars are for. So we will need to come up with another way and working, like you said, Chair, because that's not what a seminar is for, as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks for that, Councillor McCallan. Councillor, I'm going to bypass you just for a wee second and bring in a first-time speaker, and then I'm going to come back to you. Councillor Ingalls.
Yeah, Chair, we've got the information from the previous year, and if we want to alter it, then can that not be done in a full Wigtown committee meeting? If you come along to that meeting prepared, then you can come along prepared with your suggestions for the changes that need to be made, and those changes can be made at that meeting, rather than having a briefing to discuss it, and then everything that's discussed there gets thrown in the bin and start again at a meeting. Yeah. It would make sense just to have it as an item on the agenda for the meeting. The bulk of what's in there probably wouldn't change, but there are some of it that needs to change, in my view.
Thanks for that, Councillor Ingalls. Councillor Hagman, you were looking to come back in.
Yeah, thanks. I'm having a look. I don't have an invite for the budget the seminar in my diary. So if that has been arranged, it'd be useful to go out because I'm having a look through my diary. My correction, I just wanted to sort of raise, I thought I was there last year, as Councillor Hill has pointed out. I wasn't, but I think I thought I was there because I actually sat back and I listened to the 2 hours. I think we had 2 hours on this, and then there was a further 2 hours on the anti-poverty funding. So my apologies on that, but just to offer that reassurance, I did actually sit back and I listened to the full seminar. So I think we do need to be mindful of that one. I have a real concern if we're going to have a seminar arranged before the framework is agreed because of a timing issue, then that to me is back to front. I'm really concerned. I am concerned on this one because we then spend an inordinate amount of time second guessing what a framework is going to look like. And, you know, we might spend a huge amount of time doing that for it then to go to the service committee and it potentially change because, you know, members may make a different decision. So I appreciate that there's a time frame on this, but if we don't have an agreed framework we can't possibly have the seminar until that's been done, which may mean that there is a delay and we have to just accept that due to the process. And this is the reality. Wigtown Area Committee, every single session goes first. We're always the first area committee to go. So actually, can we move our area committee to the last rather than always be the first to go so that the timing works out? I would be exceedingly uncomfortable to have that seminar before the framework is agreed. Thanks.
Claire would like to comment.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hagman's just highlighted my observation when the dates got mentioned there. Yes, your frameworks, I believe, of what you've just been advised, will go to the Education, Schools and Community Wellbeing Committee on the 22nd of April for agreement. So, yeah, we've got issues there where perhaps not spending, it's obviously for members, but yeah, spending your time at the right time on the right things rather than perhaps be seen to preempt a decision that's not yet been made.
Also, Claire, one of the things that Councillor Hammond's asked there was the timing of the area committee. Are we able to change that, or are we set in the diary, or can we change it for next year's set of dates?
Obviously, there's members will be aware there's a review of area committee arrangements being presented to full council later this month, and traditionally, yes, Wigtown Area Committee's always gone first with the meetings, and from recollection, I can also recall there's been additional meetings being arranged when this sort of things happened. So there are options there.
So that's not for today, that's for full council then, okay. I think that's what I'm getting from you there, Claire, just to be clear.
Yeah, there will be a report to full council on area committee arrangements, and members may wish to give views if they think there should be perhaps a change to the order that they run in or whatever. And there's also, as with any committee, the ability, if required, for additional meetings to be arranged should there be a decision required that needs to be made out with the scheduled meetings.
That's great, thanks for that. Does that answer the question for the minute, Councillor Hagman?
It does. I mean, I think we've kind of got distracted because I think obviously this item was looking at last year's, but it does reference next year's discretionary funds. So, I think we do need to just think carefully on this one.
Right, members out of the rabbit hole. Richard Marsh.
Thank you for that, Chair. I'll try not to take you back down it. In light of what everyone's just said there, surely it's quite simple just to arrange a special meeting at the appropriate time of Wigtown Area Committee just for this. Surely that's the most sensible way forward. But in addition to that, looking at today's paper, I think we have to be mindful or wary of radically changing everything, because if it has been set like this, certainly for my last 2 years, the groups out there they may well be reliant upon this funding. I know that it's discretionary, but they may have come to become reliant upon this funding. I mean, personally, I sit on the Wigtown Sports Council along with Councillor Hill, and I know they are pretty much wholly dependent on the funding that they receive. So I understand about talking about changing the way things are done, but I think we need to be mindful that if we were to remove fairly substantial amounts, it's £8,000 last year for the Wigtown Sports Council, away from these groups, then they may not well be able to function if that was to come to pass because of this radical change.
Thanks for that, Councillor Marsh. I don't think that was a question. I would say that was more of a comment. So I'll move on. Did I see Councillor Ingles, or sorry, Councillor Hill's hand?
Thank you, Chair. Just to end on a positive note from me, looking at the feedback that we get on the monitoring report from all of these groups, again, we have lots of volunteers in these groups that do tremendous amounts of work around our local area, and I think they need championed for all the hard work that they are doing once again. So if we can put it on record from our committee that we thank everybody who is a part of their community and, you know, volunteers and does all this hard work so that the community can have the benefit of these different events that carry on. And thank you.
That's that, Councillor Hill. Louise?
It was just a really quick question. I don't know if you'll have the answer to it, but it was just how much this money directly helped or affected young people. Because I know there was a lot of funding put out, so I was just wondering if you knew the figures on that.
Louise?
Great question, Louise. Thanks very much. I don't have that figure to hand. It's not included in the report. We do get a lot of information back from organisations who complete their monitoring report, and they'll tell us how many children, families, young people have attended activities. So I can have a wee look back to see if there's any particular figures I can pull off for you, if that's okay.
Thanks for that, Louise. Thanks for that, Gillian. Members, do we have any more questions? No. There's one question I have, but it's not in this report. Last year we gave a financial grant to a Cairnryan group for resilience or something of the likes, and it's come back to us, I believe. Is there a bit of detail around that?
I think the funding you're talking about, Councillor Gusty, is to do with the tackle on poverty and inequality funding, and the report will be coming in September for that, if that's okay.
September, right, okay, that's fine, that's fine. Well, members, Councillor Engel.
Are you finished? I just had one item I'd like to bring to the table before we finish, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, I'm finished that.
Is that okay? I've been highlighting for a wee while now an item that the past Secretary of State for Scotland highlighted in Westminster, and that was the possibility of St Cairnryan falling within the enhanced investment zone.
Sorry, Councillor Engels, is that on this item? No,
11? Sorry, I thought you'd finished. That was why I was asking you.
All right, no, I'm just going to go to the recommendations.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Mike. Right, members, without any more hands up in the room or online, we'll move to recommendations, which are to 2.1, note that performing monitoring information from projects / initiatives that received support from the Wigtown Area Committee discretionary grant or budget in 2024 to 2025, detailed in the appendix. 2.2, note that a significant number of citizens have benefited from the delivery of 50 local projects and initiatives, and over £61,000 has been invested in projects and initiatives in the local area, in the local Wigtown area, and agree to carry forward the remaining balance of £300 from the 2024 to 2025 budget to the 2025 to 2026 budget as outlined in paragraph 4.6. Members, are we happy to note and agree? I'm getting nods in the room, and online I'm assuming are in agreement. So members, that brings us on to item number, thank you Gillian for giving us that report. Moving on to item number 11, which is any other business deemed urgent by the Chair due to the need for a decision. I don't have anything due for today, but if the members would like to hang on, we'll have a wee discussion just after the committee, and if we can finish the recording now. Thank you everyone for coming along today. Councillor Ingles, you want yours in?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you wanted to take that afterwards. Right, okay. Councillor Inglis.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was saying the past Secretary of State for Scotland highlighted this in Westminster, the possibility of St Mirren, Cairn Ryan being taken in as part of the enhanced investment zone for Northern Ireland. There's £115 million going into that investment zone. Early discussions were had, I believe. Our MP John Cooper has asked if we can put some sort of emphasis on it as a council. Not getting a lot of traction on this, and I'm wondering whether as area committee we could put a bit of pressure on and see if there's some sort of dialogue could be opened up with the Northern Ireland Executive to see whether there is any mileage in this or whether there's not happy to, if it's not going to happen and they don't want it to happen, well, fair enough, but I'm not getting any answers at all to this, and I think it's important for Stranraer and Cairn Ryan that we at least investigate it and put a bit of pressure on to see if there's some way we can have that conversation, and maybe through area committee that would be a good start.
This is absolutely something worth taking forward, and you're right, Councillor Inglis, we should be taking this forward. How do we take it forward, Jamie and Claire? What are our options here? Do we bring this back as a report to another area committee, but then that kicks this down the line by 4 months? Or are we able to take this as another item of business today without a report, just it's a request, from what I understand, for me as chair of the area committee to write a letter to the executive, which would have to be circulated around the committee? Am I on the right track, Claire, Jamie?
Council on this?
Yeah, I've flagged it up a number of times, and the chief executive's aware of it as well. But I'm not getting a definitive answer back to say, look, we've been told this is not going to happen or anything like that. I don't even know whether there's any engagement being had with the Northern Ireland Executive. But if there, I know that it falls within the zone, or could fall within the zone. And I know that there's we've been working on a partnership with Northern Ireland through the North Channel Partnership, various other things for quite a while. So I'm wondering whether we can engage with them to find out whether the Stranraer Cairn Ryan area could be taken into that enhanced investment zone, because it would be a huge boost to the west of the region if we could do that.
Councillor Hagman, or Jamie, sorry. No, Councillor Hagman.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I hear the sentiments of Councillor Ingall's comments there. I'm really conscious that we've just agreed that there was no strategic areas to take back to the Economy and Environment, or Economy and Infrastructure Committee, of which this would sit. I don't know if we can go back to an item and revisit our recommendations, and because I appreciate if there's frustrations at not getting responses. I've raised in committee a number of times. I'm a member of the North Channel Partnership. I've never once been to a meeting, and the last I was told that this is sitting within an officer space. I'm not part of the administration. I'm not a chair or vice chair, so I would suggest that this is sitting with the administration. If it was myself that had this concern that was bringing it forward, I would essentially be bringing forward a notice of motion. But I think maybe we do need to get an update in the request for a briefing. I just don't know how the governance of this is, and certainly the deadline for notices of motion will be on the 13th. I think we've got 2 weeks. If this is something that we want to look at as a whole council, because I'm acutely aware that this issue will affect the whole region, although it would be potentially a focus on the west. So I don't know if we've got Stuart McMillan still on the call, but certainly he was here earlier in terms of that economic development. So I mean, I'm uncomfortable to make any decision or an action right now on this one, and I would like to see what the due process would be, because to me it would have been irrelevant to a previous item that we've already agreed the recommendations for. Thanks.
Well, thanks for that, Councillor. So Jamie's came to me and said that we can take this forward, as that we can take a briefing on this in the future for the members of the area committee. I think it's for Councillor Inglis, myself, and maybe others that are interested to have a discussion on what the way forward is outside of this committee, because we have passed the point of no return in the sense of our previous item is when we should have had this and brought it into the recommendations. But Councillor Hill.
I think the reason Councillor Ingalls didn't bring it into the recommendations of the previous item is because it wasn't actually on the paper. This is a separate thing that Councillor Ingalls has done a lot of research into and wants to bring forward, and is wanting to know whether it be the area committee as a collaborative force can bring this forward to get some answers, or whether a number of councillors joined Councillor Ingalls in bringing it forward. So I don't think it was relevant to bring it forward on the paper during the committee, because there was no mention of it. This is any other business, and this is something that Councillor Ingalls has spent a lot of time and energy into looking into, to see and to trying to get it moving with the council, and now asking for assistance if, as an area committee, we can bring it forward.
Councillor Ingalls.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the responses, because it's just another door closed, in my view. This is vital to Stranraer. It is something that we should be fighting for. It doesn't matter what channel we need to go through, we need to take it forward. Yeah, I'm quite happy to put pressure on again at our administration level, but even at the administration level, there doesn't appear to be I'm not saying there's no an appetite to take it forward, but I'm not getting the feedback that I should be getting on this, given the importance of what could be delivered in Stranraer and Cairnryan. And I thought maybe area committee getting behind this would be something that would give it that wee bit extra impetus. And it's not in the paper.
I can appreciate that, Councillor Ingalls. So with that, and I understand
Chair, can I come back in?
Yeah, Councillor Hagman, yeah.
Sorry, Chair. I don't mean to interrupt you on that one. I'm just wondering, can we open the discussion to include the investment zones, or I'm trying to think of the terminology, it's escaped me right now, but Scottish Government have identified key investment zones as well. When I was the chair of the Economy and Resources Committee, I met with the then Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, who was very keen to be as helpful as possible in terms of putting that investment into the west of the region. Councillor Scobie joined me on that call. Since I'm no longer on that, I've been advised that that is now sitting in an officer space, but there was information, or there was a commitment given within that meeting from Scottish Government. So Scottish Government are keen to come to the table on this. If there's an opportunity to link in with the UK Government scheme as well, I think they are both connected, and okay, they might not be the same, but there absolutely is an opportunity to lever in some support, some funding. We've got that deep sea lock. There's businesses at Cairnryan who are desperately seeking that investment. So I would wholeheartedly agree, but I would just ask, can we open this out to include the initiatives of Scottish Government as well as the UK Government initiatives? Thank you.
So, Councillor Hagman, you've mentioned that this is sitting on an officer's desk. Is that a council officer's desk, or is that a Scottish Government officer's desk?
I was advised, because following the change of administration, I followed up with the director at the time as to what had happened to that piece of work, because there had been a political meeting with myself, Councillor Scobie, and the then Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, and Scottish Government officials. I asked what had happened to that piece of work, how was it progressing, and I was advised that it had gone into an officer space at a council level. So council officers were leading on this rather than elected members and political leading on this. So it would be useful to know where that work is sitting. Thank you.
I'm being advised by Jamie that must be in a report somewhere, or it's in a report in a file somewhere. Yeah, so there's an update report we're looking for on that basis. Councillor Ingalls wants to come back in. I think this is probably based on, we want some action today. Am I right, Councillor Ingalls?
No, I'm just, as long as we're clear that this is the enhanced investment zone that has been designated to Northern Ireland, not the green zones or anything like that, which we were ruled out of. So I think Katie's absolutely right, the Scottish Government, if we can put pressure on there as well, that's the more pressure the better, because the important part of this is Stranraer and Cairnryan take advantage of the opportunity to talk to Northern Ireland Executive about whether we can partner them in the enhanced investment zone. The enhanced investment zone, I believe, is funded from the UK government. It's 115 million that's going into that to create it. I know the money is still there because I've been informed by that by the MP. So I don't know, these things do take time, I understand that, but I think it's just we're getting a bit more traction here today, which is good, and that's what we're looking for. And if the Scottish Government can come in behind or lead or whatever it is, I don't care, as long as we get this moving.
Councillor Hill, and then I'm going to sum up my thoughts of what the committee can do.
It's interesting to hear what Councillor Hagman was saying there, and if it is the same thing that herself and Councillor Scorby and Councillor Ingalls today are talking about, I find it very disappointing if it is the same thing, that just because they're not in administration now, that these councillors haven't chased this and taken it forward, with it being such an investment that can come into the area. But it is great to hear that Councillor Hagman, has recognised it today and is quite on board as area committee to come in with it. But I am disappointed it's been sat on an officer's desk, and some of us that maybe weren't aware of it and some of us that were haven't followed it through. Thanks.
So members, looking at this, and if we're trying to act with a bit of vigour, we don't have a report in front of us today, but I think we've got a general consensus that we want to support the enhanced investment zone being brought to Stranraer and Cairnryan, and this fund that you were talking about, or this business support, Councillor Hagman, that you were including there. With that, as chair, I can take forward a letter to the leader of the council and I'll take it to the leaders panel in the council.
Chief Exec.
And the Chief Exec. I will raise that as chair. I think we can agree that today without a report, because that's not, it's a wee bit soft, but it's not any hard action of me writing to a Scottish secretary or to a Northern Irish secretary or anything like that. So I'll undertake that as chair. I'll do that in the next week the end of next week. Is that what the members have the appetite for today? I'm going to bring in Councillor Hagman because she had her hand up first, and then Councillor Ingalls.
Yeah, no, thanks. Just to put on record, I regularly send updates, and I bring this up at every opportunity because that's the only way I can. So if there's any comments there that I haven't followed up on this, I think I've just put that on record that I absolutely have. I think for me, Chair, I wouldn't be comfortable with agreeing that we as an area committee are supporting for a policy that we don't have in front of us. So I couldn't put my name towards supporting the agreement that we want this for sure. But what I would be really keen to ensure is that we get a full report back at the next area committee, and that you write as chair, and certainly that the whole of, I'm quite happy to put my name towards that as an area committee. This is a key priority for us, and we must get an updated report of all the opportunities and how those can be progressed. And certainly if that needs to go to the Chief Executive, then absolutely, I think we need to do that.
I don't think we're trying to make policy on the hoof here, Councillor Hagman, and I'm not saying that you've said that, but I think what we're trying to do is act with a bit of vigour, and the most vigour that we have with the information we have in front of us is an instruction from this committee through the chair to basically say we would like the council at the senior level, which is the Chief Executive and the Leaders Panel, to investigate this and act on this and maybe bring it back to the appropriate service committee. Because we bring it back to the area committee, we're talking 4 months, and then once we've... Oh, sorry? Yeah, the appropriate committee. Oh, I'm getting advice here to bring it back to the appropriate committee. And of course we are going to want to take a look at this ourselves again. So I'm going to suggest we bring it back to the area committee, but we also make sure it goes to the appropriate committee in the council, so that we can keep abreast of that. And I think the first way to get that ball rolling at that senior level is through the committee for the agreement for me to write a letter to the Chief Exec and the leadership panel to get that ball rolling and get that in the right place. And I'm not saying that we create the policy here, I'm just saying we would look for that to come forward in the future. Is that agreeable with you, Councillor Hagman? Have you got anything to add? And then absolutely, Councillor Ingalls, you're coming in. Mike, Councillor Hagman.
I think it would be helpful to understand what it is that you're asking for, because I'm not sure. Are we saying that we absolutely want a UK investment zone? Are we saying we want to be part of an NSET investment enterprise zone for Scottish Government? Are we asking for an update on the full picture? Because I'm absolutely on board with asking for an update on the full picture. I wouldn't be comfortable with signing off, agreeing to a specific project going forward. And whether there's a draft letter that can maybe be circulated once we get the wording correct on that before there's an agreement. So we could possibly agree in principle, and that a draft letter could be shared with all members of the area committee. Thanks.
Councillor Inglis is going to come in, and I think he's going to have the answers to all of our problems.
All right. All I'm looking for is for our council to reach out to the Northern Ireland Executive, express an interest in the fact that we could fall within their enhanced investment zone, and we'd like to discuss it with them. Whether we want it or we don't want it, I just don't want this opportunity to pass without at least reaching out to them to let them know we're interested. That it's that initial contact from our administration and our chief executive and leaders of the parties to agree to go out there and whoever the appropriate officer is in the Northern Ireland Executive and say, Dumfries and Galloway Council would like to discuss the possibility of Stranraer, Cairn Ryan falling within their enhanced investment zone. That's all. It's just an initial move so that at least we're on the radar.
That's right, Councillor Inglis. I'm going to ask our governance officer, Claire, to sort of sum this up, because it's not an item that we had today. And how do we take that forward if it's not an item we had on the agenda today? How do we put that into the system just for a bit of clarity?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, you're quite correct. It wasn't an item on today's agenda, and you don't have that information in front of you. And you had said that there was no item that required an urgent decision as such, but it will be minuted that obviously you've allowed Councillor Inglis to raise this as a matter, and you're asking for this to be investigated. So it will be formally minuted. So we'll have a public record, and then that will follow up with an action, so it goes to the right people in the council to action as appropriate.
Within that action, Claire, is there going to be a requirement for me as chair to write to the leaders panel and the chief executive? I think that might be worthwhile. Are the members happy for me to take that on? I will obviously share the letter before I send it. But is that the road we're wanting to go down right now? Councillor Hackman?
Yeah, I think it's important that the draft letter is shared for agreement, because we need to see that. But as long as the draft letter will be circulated to agree, then I'm absolutely content with taking that forward, and we can actually get this moved. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Councillor Hammond. Thanks for that, Councillor Inglis. So, is there anything official that you need to tell us now, Claire? Or is there?
I was going to say, well, in that case, the action will be that the chair writes a letter for that to be investigated and progressed as appropriate. Thank you.
Sorry for throwing a spanner in the works.
What a curveball, Councillor Inglis. Oh, Councillor Hammond, are you looking to come back in?
Nope, it's a historic hand, I shall say, rather than a legacy hand.
Oh, I prefer legacy. So, members, if our members online could just hold on for a wee second, I'm going to finish the meeting with any other business deemed urgent by the chair due for a decision. Nobody has anything forthcoming, so members, thank you for joining us for the committee, and I will stop recording.